last week on the Smite Minor League.
Happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome in for the SML.
You know, we had a good day at console yesterday. Excited for some minor league action today.
Yeah, this is such a huge matchup, though, between these two teams because they're so evenly matched. Flashpoint and Simplicity, when they both have their full rosters, it feels almost like a coin flip to me. Who's the better team?
Flashpoint take game number 3 in a 3-game set.
At this time, they were the ones that controlled all the objectives. 3 Furies, 2 Fire Giants. Who needs EFG when you can get the normal one and force the issue?
Let's jump right into it. Picks and bans on the way here for Olorun and OCG.
Really good turnaround from out cold. There was a little bit there, Finch, where I was getting nervous for this squad, but they looked much more composed than they would have, I think, in Phase 1.
Yeah.
You could tell the teamwork is starting to develop for this team, and they're able to turn it around and then really knock Horizon Union down very easily.
We are moving from SML EU to SML North America with our modern cryptic picks and bans already. Let's go ahead and start moving into it.
A lot faster than game number 1, and this is the pressure that Cope was not able to really apply throughout the course of the game. The mobility tactics between the Giannis and the Amaterasu wasn't developed to the late game quite yet.
P's and B's, pretty please.
It's Space Station Gold. Grab this game here over Exilium.
Beautifully done. I mean, Finch, I spent a lot of game 2 talking about solo lane play as just who can 1v3 more effectively. Game 2 it was Dishonored. Game 3 it was Uzi. And Dishonored did it well in the early stages. He had a better timed rotation in the early game.
Do also want to talk a little bit about those EU standings. At the very top is Team Queso. You might not have expected it, but they're the sole owners of that spot.
Let's take a look at the North American standings where everybody winds up. Hype Unit up top still have yet to really fall down. Space Station a much better Phase 2 than they had Phase 1.
Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome here to the Smite Minor League. And I promise what you just watched was a full week ago. You can tell because there's 1 week less of light in my eyes. Joining us here on the desk is Taco, Melissa Taco Posada, as I like to say. Happy to have you here with me, Taco. We are moving into actually a really big set to get things started off today. But, I mean, here at SML, I expect all our sets to be pretty close.
Should be a lot of fun, though, seeing Queso, considering how hot they've been coming out for the start of this Phase 2 split, Finch, because when you compare it to the end of Phase 1, you would never I don't know. I have a hard time picturing Queso having the success that they have, but a lot of hard work has clearly been taking place in between MSI and Phase 2.
Yeah, it feels like just about every team has improved here so far in the minor league. Let's go and take a look at what games you all can expect to start coming up for us here throughout the day. As we said, we'll be starting with Queso and Simplicity, but Out Cold and Exordium will follow after that, with Flashpoint Horizon Union being offline today. Then Armada Exilium, Sanguine and Cryptic, with the Hype Unit SSG set being the one that's happening off stream.
And like you've already mentioned, Finch, a lot of really strong matchups happening here today, although Europe seems to be a little bit spicier than North America.
Yeah, I might say it's a little bit more competitive, but really not by much. I mean, Space Station improved a lot from where we saw them in Phase 1, which brought North America to be a lot more competitive, I think, because they were kind of the bottom team there. So now you can really expect every set we look at to be competitive. Let's go and take a look at the standings. That'll put some numbers to exactly what we're talking about. Taco already mentioned how Queso had a hot start here to the start of Phase 2. Simplicity, your representatives towards MSI, are right there behind them. Flashpoint as well. They were one of the teams that came as well, too. Still a little bit behind Queso, who wasn't that big of a problem in Phase 1.
And Horizon Union and Exordium, along with the additions of Exilium over in North America, it's been really fun seeing all of the new additions kind of try and strut their stuff around.
Exactly, and Out Cold are looking a little bit better. That's the team with Demi on as well that struggled in Phase 1, and they've been looking improved. So on a day-to-day basis, I really do think any team can take a set off of any other team. That's why it's so important that you come in prepped for every last one of these matches. In this case, a Simplicity matchup is no difference to me. I'm looking at WorstTurttle and Faeles in particular here in this jungle, Taco, to see how those two players can try and impact this map here.
I'm also looking towards a solo lane between these two teams, but you're right, Finch. I think that the jungle being so heavily prioritized right now in Season 6, it's tough not to try and expect a strong performance from either of these junglers.
Let's start moving then into the picks and bans to get this first day started. It will be Team Queso in that first pick position with Simplicity getting that coveted 10th spot. We've seen some healers slide into that 10th spot, which I actually think is pretty interesting. Chang'as and Hells, you can use that last pick to maybe catch the other team without very good anti-healers or counter picks into that kind of sustain.
It's really just all about the team composition as a whole, and healers just kind of fit the bill right now for a lot of these drafts, but I like the... I think it's proper for Simplicity here to kind of just look at role-specific bans.
Right.
Chronos being stripped away, while Chronos hasn't exactly been the most top-tier desired hunter, Queso has a tendency to look for those comfort picks.
And we're still not entirely sure how these two teams are going to go about some of our shakeups in the meta right now, Taco. Are they going to be swapping around DeathPanter, StreakUp, Warchi, and Checkyo? Are they going to be going into the roles they're supposed to be? Are they going to be swapping those lanes and playing different stuff? That can make it difficult not just for us to predict here on the desk, but for these two teams to prepare for each other when you don't know how they're going to be, you know, tackling the current meta.
Warchi's always been a bit of a wild card in our league as well. You never really know what to expect or what he's really feeling to try and bring out. We've seen a lot of Nuwa from Warchi. The Muzen Cobb is another pick that has definitely stayed top of the charts in terms of preference.
Yeah, I could very easily see this one being piloted by Warchi or Checkyo here at this point. I actually think I might lean slightly towards giving it to Warchi in the middle lane, so we'll see where they end up going as Chronos makes it through. Despite all these good bans, Isis and Zhang Kui and Jormungandr, there's still a ton of good stuff out there, like the Chronos and the Muzen Cobb. Erlong Shen still out there too.
It's interesting to see the differences between the teams in their picks and bans, though. Simplicity prioritizing the carries out of Queso. Meanwhile, Queso taking a little bit more of a direct note towards those backline destroyers. Jormungandr and Daji just way too annoying for your carries to try and deal with. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, the Olorun makes sense in a sense, but at the same time, Simplicity, they've got this Chronos, they've got this Geb, a lot of late game dependency already.
You're exactly right. I mean, Chronos can find some early pressure, but this guy really comes online later on, as does Geb. But I was saying it makes some sense to ban away the Daji and the Jormungandr if you were planning to get Olorun and Muzen Cobb. That's pretty immobile as far as your carries go. They have the Khepri as well to keep them alive if they are to be dove. I think Queso's actually done a really good job with these first three bans and their first three picks.
And an aggressive Anhur selection here for Simplicity to round things off before the 4th and 5th banning phase. But Finch, one thing I can't help but notice, there is a decent amount of single target focus right now from Simplicity. Not a whole lot of AoE bases here between that Chronos and Anhur in terms of their DPS potential. So it's going to be tough, I think, for Simplicity to consistently fight inside of that Olorun sanctified field. You have to remember there's the possibility of a lot of those bees and the honey just slowing everyone in the process.
Yeah, something like a Hun Batz or maybe even an Ares wouldn't feel too bad, I would say, here to try and give them a little bit more area damage, and obviously it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit more spread into magical as well out of your jungle role. So we'll see where Simplicity goes, but it feels like they need a little bit more AoE maybe to get around this Scarab's Blessing.
Well, it seems like you might have been onto something, Finch, because Queso are already going to take away that Ares. Don't want to run the risk of that winding up in the jungle role, but Simplicity still get a pretty solid runner-up with that set, and that's going to be that backline die potential that we were talking about you want to try and avoid with the Olorun and Muzen Cobb. But again, Set is another single target focused god, and Khepri loves that territory, and it's no real surprise to see the tier coming out. This is a staple pick for Caso.
Yes, it exactly is. This has Julio's name written all up and down. He'll absolutely be playing this one. But Taco, I'm right there with you in your concerns of the set, right? I mean, it feels almost like they're calling out Dracomarino, that they don't think his Scarab's Blessings will be strong enough to where they can't just commit to the single target. I mean, Desert Fury can do some nice work to multiple people if they are lined up, but for the most part, I think that this Khepri is going to be able to have a really good game, especially when you add in the Hun Batz.
I will say, though, the one benefit that Caso have is the fact that Simplicity, they have a ton of single target, but it's lots of burst damage, especially if it hits that late game aspect.
Sure.
Then it can be tough for Caso to find an appropriate target for every single Scarab's Blessing, because Simplicity can just shift.
That's right, Dracomarino has to make sure that he is quick on that trigger finger if they want to win this game. Caso against Simplicity, a battle of our top teams. Let's get it to the casters.
Eager to jump into this one, John. Thank you for your work on the desk. Taco, you too. Tom and Aggro on the cast. Doug on the ones and twos. And as we get into Caso versus Simplicity, I'm taking a look at this set in the jungle. We have repeatedly seen him in the short side and then occasionally as a carry, but Faeles bringing him back to the jungle.
Listen, man, anywhere you're putting Set, I'm a fan. You should just be picking this god. He's really, really good. He's really hard to execute perfectly, and I think up against this composition for Queso, it might be even harder. There's lots of displacement, lots of CC, a really good Khepri pick for Dracomarino that's going to shut down a lot of that single target damage that Set provides. But even still, if you have the opportunity to pick Set, I think you should take it.
He just hunts players down, quite literally. I mean, that Kingslayer gives him movement speed, extra numbers on his damage, on his healing. It's just very, very effective to really allow him to do whatever he wants. In the solo side, he gets to build tanky and do it. In the duo lane, he gets to take advantage of his 1v1 prowess. And in the jungle, he just kind of jumps on you.
He just has a lot of options in the jungle. You can go with the auto attack style with the frostbound hammers and the stone cutting swords, and it looks like that might be the direction that Faeles is going to go just based on this cudgel start. You can go for the ability based Jotuns into Transcendence and really just poke out the opposition with your skewers. The Set is flexible, and if you build a composition that's really good at shutting down auto attacks, he can just build ability damage. If you have a composition that does pretty well against ability damage, he just builds auto attack, and that's another thing that makes him very strong.
Chekio here on the Olorun getting some good poke against StreakUp. Olorun historically pretty poor in the early game, but Chronos not exactly the star of the laning phase either until about now. Now he can kind of get some free mana out there and start clearing the way for free. So Chekio, I think, is going to kind of lose control of this lane soon.
Neither player really has a great laning phase here. Olorun really vulnerable in a lot of parts of the laning phase because he has no escape whatsoever. His ultimate is an incredibly long cooldown. It's hard for him to get away from you. Chronos can certainly have solo potential in this lane, but Chekio can also easily force purification beads or force a rewind with that sanctified field at the same time. Just a matter of if either of the junglers want to come over and poke their head in and affect this laning phase, because usually in lanes like this where both carries are late game tilted and really want to play into the later game team fights, StreakUp and Chekio would rather just play it safe and get their farm and trust in themselves. They're going to be able to outplay their opponents come the late game.
Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Don't even come to my lane. Middle lane, we've got our hunters, as per usual. It's interesting to see the magical ADCs instead of just like straight up mages over there, because we've definitely seen the shift to hunters here in the mid. DeathPanter playing on the Anhur and Warchi bringing out the AMC. So again, pretty much the same situation as we have in the long lane, except instead of being bad in the laning phase, both players are extremely exceptional. But again, they just kind of cancel each other out because of the prowess.
This is the ever-flowing change of the meta. It's, this seems to be pretty agreed upon between Queso and Simplicity, what they think is good. Warrior in the solo lane that can control the team fights pretty well. True Assassin in the jungler. You've got ADCs in mid, True Guardians, and then magical ADCs. That's just kind of the way it is at this point, it feels like, but it's a matter of, it comes down to execution at this point. And then whoever loses this game might decide to make some changes to try and take advantage of where these compositions have their weaknesses.
So I'm gonna make you guess the weather on Christmas, on New Year's. Who wins this game? Where is, because right now we obviously have a dead even one, and as far as the draft is concerned, I think we're kind of deadlocked as well. If I make you take a shot in the dark, where are you going and why?
I mean, Simplicity's just been the stronger team, so you have to give them the nod. I think Queso's punching up in this instance, but Queso has proven throughout their time in the minor league that they are capable of that. So
that's fair.
It's certainly not a guarantee, but I think Queso has a really good draft. I think it does pretty well up against Simplicity's draft, but Simplicity's players have just been playing at a level that no one else in the European minor league has been as of late. So just kind of by default, I have to lean it to them.
If I'm kind of forced to play the other side, I immediately see Julio on his go-to character. The tier has the tier's not a top pick, but when you do have that flavor pick, I think it's worth it. And WorstTurttle on a real team fight character. It's not execution heavy. You drop the totem and everybody can pile on. And Dracomarino really shines as support, specifically when he's playing characters that are defensive and saving his team and peeling. He can do the exciting, aggressive stuff, but I'd much rather see him on gods like Khepri and everything. So I think this is kind of the best Queso that Queso can bring.
This is certainly a very good draft. I mean, Warchi used to play Hunter. He's playing Hunter in the mid lane, so you're always comfortable on that. I can't disagree with you. Queso's got a great draft. It's just...
For them specifically, yeah.
Yeah, for simplicity, they've been playing better than everybody else. And
can't disagree with that.
Playing better means that you're usually going to win most of your games, regardless of if you got out-drafted. I don't think that's really the case here, but Queso got a lot of things they wanted. A lot of things that Simplicity probably didn't want.
Yeah.
So that's why it seemed pretty consistent for Queso to get the picks that they desired.
Right now, about 6 minutes in, Team Queso and Simplicity might be ready to battle. We've got our 3v3 here in the mid, and the Harpies being at least thought about. Long range clear, I think traded 1 for 1.
Interesting that neither support goes boots in this game right away. Gauntlet of Thebes start for Draco. He's going to be sitting around mid a lot, just get that guaranteed farm near the mid lane. Genetics, on the other hand, gets some movement speed with this Relic Dagger, but it's cheap movement speed, it's HP as well, it's a bit of CDR, and it means that he's going to get his blink up faster and allow him to use it more aggressively in the early game. I actually really like this Relic Dagger rush, and wouldn't be surprised if we see more supports pick it up.
A lot of times after this Relic Dagger rush, you're going to see another 10% movement speed item, and that'll allow you 18 is what you're trying to reach as far as regular boots are concerned, and that'll give you the movement speed. You don't really need the boots, and it's giving you the utility that you kind of are after as a Guardian. You know, boots are an interesting thought process, and I think it makes sense for a lot of the damage rolls. But when you're out there just trying to play support and really make use of your utility more so than anything, this build path is very exciting. Because you know what you're losing is a power spike, but I mean, if I'm not getting cooldown boots, the power spike that is Travelers or even tank boots is a little bit lackluster in comparison to some, I don't want to say real items, but real items.
It's just that when you have Relic Dagger, you feel so much more willing to use your blink aggressively and really set your team up. And Genetics is a very aggressive-minded support. A lot of the time, you'll see him try and make plays, and most of them go well, some of them don't, but it never seems to dissuade him, which is the mark of a good player. And I think that using your blink aggressively on a god like Geb is the right way to play.
Yeah, you got it.
I really like the Relic Dagger rush. It just feels like you open up your play style so much immediately upon completing this item, so why not get it early?
40 seconds. Pretty insane. Right side, this time maniaKK makes a rotation. Julio going to be forced to do the same. And we got a little bit more action there than we did on the left side Harpies. That will be the end of the engagement.
Yeah, it's not super exciting when that's the more action, huh? The Vamana knockup.
The Vamana knockup came. Julio rotated halfway.
Yeah, that's
He
big.
came halfway, and they went, nope, that's it. And Julio went, all right.
Back to solo lane I go.
Good old tier.
No Glad Shield for Julio this game, probably because maniaKK isn't doing a whole lot of fighting him in lane. It's hard for Vamana to out-sustain anybody because he has no sustain in the kit outside of the ultimate.
Woo! Blink Fearless into the ultimate force. You'll love to see it, and it's fun to that's fun to watch, man. I love tier.
Tier's sweet.
Tier's so cool.
Yep, I love tier as well. I'm excited about Julio playing him anytime he gets a chance to. He's so comfortable on this god.
That was a hard blinked Fearless too, like weird angle, short range.
He's a playmaker, man.
I think a lot of players kind of have that maximum range blink ingrained in their brain. You know, like exactly how far you're gonna go when you like get blink and how far to stay away from said get blink. When you're executing those short range blinks, that's really impressive to me. And I mean, Julio hit right behind the target. That was smooth. That's what's really, that level of mechanics is really impressive to me. But right now, as we approach 10 minutes here, Ryan, we do have a 1,000 gold lead, actually a little bit more than that for Team Queso. Very slowly but surely, they've been able to kind of bring this gold in their favor. And really, it hasn't been off the back of too many invades or whatnot. It's just been good farm from the rest of the team, and specifically that jungle mid synergy has been really grabbing these mid Harpies, apparently, kind of repeatedly.
WorstTurttle and Warchi with slight XP leads over Faeles and DeathPanter, so I think that assumption is correct. Jekio does need to be careful. He's got no beads on this left-hand side. StreakUp was able to force those, but Faeles isn't a god that really
capitalizes super well on a lack of relics, well, a lack of beads, I should say. He capitalizes very well on a lack of Aegis, which Chekio, only being level 11, is certainly suffering from. But the slow is nice for Set, sometimes completely unnecessary. Kingslayer's enough movement speed that you are at a huge advantage to catch up to anybody.
Solo laners staying on their island. Julio with a little bit of a nice little proxy farm. And then Team Queso decided to show their face by the Gold Fury. Simplicity didn't take the bait. Nobody fought. Queso, I guess you could say Queso with a little bit of a lead, but Simplicity, I like their itemization right now a little bit better to fight, despite the fact that Julio's got some extra FizzD. I just like where we're at with the jungle as far as Blackthorn and attack speed is concerned here for Faeles. I think Simplicity would be able to take a fight despite being down just a little bit.
Absolutely. This is still fightable territory for Simplicity, no doubt about that. I'm not a huge fan of the Blackthorn set. I understand the mindset that you need some degree of HP in order to get your hands dirty in these team fights and use Kingslayer appropriately. But I really like the more patient set playstyle where you sit at a distance, use Skewer over and over and over again until one of their carries is without an Aegis and a little bit separated, and then you Sandstorm in and insta-kill them.
You want to see the Jotuns.
I want to see the Jotuns. I want to see the Transcendence. I really don't like much auto attack at all. I think cooldown or attack speed boots is the only thing I like as far as pure attack speed. I don't love Stone Cutting Sword. I really think that Skewer is what sets Set apart a lot of the time, is that long-range, low cooldown poke and the ability to teleport frequently with a lot of CDR, I think is a really valuable tool.
See, Stone Cutting Sword is kind of my perfect item for Set because you're getting the 50 power, right? And the 7% movement speed after today's patch, but right now I think 10. And you're just getting a bonus for those basics that you are going to be delivering. It's not an executioner. You know, I think that 50 power is important.
It is, and I'm not saying Stone Cutting's a bad item by any stretch, but I just think that pure power, maybe a late Stone Cutting Sword would end up being okay, but a lot of times things like Jotuns, well, Crusher I think is pretty key as well. Jotuns, Trends, Crusher, Mantle, you're good. You know, that's I think my ideal sort of Set play style right now, but that is, I think, a personal preference thing, and Set is one of those gods that can be played on a personal preference level. This Frostbound build that Faeles is going to go for, where you stack the HP from Blackthorn and Frostbound, is very, very potent, allows you to teleport in much earlier than the power build that I prefer, and ends up being really potent in games where the enemy carries can't get away from you. And in this one, I think it's actually way better than my build because it's AMC and Olorun, two gods who really can't get you off of them. And I think this is a very good build path for Faeles in this game in particular.
I would be concerned if there was a solo that did less damage. Fear No Evil popped by WorstTurttle, but he's going to take more damage than he really exports. Khepri ultimate onto him to save the life, and that's going to be fine. Simplicity now looking to bite back. A little bit of not a misplay. I loved that engagement. That was the right time, the right place, the right thing to do. Team Queso just wasn't there to help out WorstTurttle.
But he got Purification Beats from DeathPanter, DeathPanter's ultimate, Genetics ultimate, Maniac's blink towards the back end. All it really cost you was 2 ultimates and a blink, and getting beads off DeathPanter is the most important thing that you could have done there.
Sure.
So it's a win, I'd say, for Queso.
Fear No Evil just, if they had continued to stay around the Gold Fury and threaten that one, I think I'd be a little bit more concerned. But with the complete disengage, I think you're right. The Fear No Evil is going to be one of your major tools here against the Gold Fury, along with Chekio's ultimate, which does stay intact. Overall, Team Queso still has that 15-ish 100 gold lead. So a small one for sure. To finish up the Set conversation, Set solo works. You know, it's a similar approach to what we're seeing, and that's how Set gets away with it with the numbers built in.
Sure.
But I didn't like, I wouldn't like the idea in a vacuum of tank Set in the jungle because you're kind of lacking the damage. But Vamana's a high damage dealing solo laner, and so you're mixing and matching a little bit of shift and a little bit of shift, but the equation stays balanced at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I do think that if you're going to be going for this style of build, you may as well just be playing solo set, right? If you need him,
Right.
if you want him to be that slow character that sticks to people all the time, why not just give the set to maniaK and let Faeles play Ratatosker? You know what I mean? Like you can get away with this exact set build in solo really well, and then you're ahead, and you have more farm, and you have more levels, and it's more impactful. Trying to be tanky while even doesn't usually work very well.
Sure.
It's why Guardians and Warriors and solo lane are so much more potent than elsewhere. It's because they get naturally tanky by leveling up a whole bunch. That's true for every character class in the game, just accentuated for Warriors and Guardians. So even though Set's an assassin, if he's level 16 like maniaK is, while everyone else is level 13 to 15, then you'll feel much tankier than you really are.
Team fights will show us the way. Right now, scoreless at 16. Team Queso looking around the Gold Fury. We've seen about 3 sniffs here. Nobody really willing to take a bite. Simplicity and Team Queso ready to fight, both item-wise, composition-wise, relic-wise. Everybody looking good as well. Dracomarino kind of fishing for a route. With the rest of Team Queso safe and sound, far away from the objective. And after a little bit of time, everybody will walk away and head back to lane.
Draco really needs to head back to base to pick up his second relic. He's level 12, just hasn't gotten the chance to go back and purchase it, whereas Genetics has already upgraded a sprint. An interesting call just to try and get some extra movement speed, maybe in Sanctified Field, though it's not great in that area.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. Gold Fury brought down to about 25%. Simplicity, go for it. Queso show up. Warchi gets chased down by maniaK, and the ultimate going to be used by Draco. Last minute possible. Well done. Just fundamentals coming out here from Queso. Simplicity falls back on the objective. We're going to start it one more time. Queso is still here. Dracomarino drops down a route, forces Simplicity off. maniaK on the back line looking for Chekio. Blaine gets it all in from Genetics, and there's help from the Sanctified Field. Team Queso trying to deal with Faeles on the back line, while maniaK is pushing players out up top. Faeles taking more damage, gets a shield from Gem. Not good enough. First blood comes at 17, and it's all Warchi's.
Warchi still trying to finish off maniaK as well, but StreakUp gets a hold of WorstTurttle, both junglers on the respawn.
Down goes maniaK and Genetics. And that's going to open the door for Team Queso. Give us the treasure. All hours. Simplicity down 2,000. But wait, there's more. Gold Fury going to extend that to about 3,500. And that's going to be a real nice look for Team Queso.
Beautiful fight from them. Chekio's patience on that ultimate really paid off. His Sanctified Field made it very hard for Simplicity to get in and help maniaK and Faeles. Fear no evil in a Sanctified Field, by the way. Real nasty. Real nasty. maniaK was not having a good time there. No doubt about that. But that I'm really surprised at how poorly that fight went for Simplicity. I mean, maniaK does everything right to start it off. He blinks in, gets both relics from Warchi and Dracomarino's ultimate, and Simplicity just a little bit too slow on pulling the trigger on going for the Gold Fury itself. They stick around a little bit and try and poke out. You've got to get Queso on the hook to pull them into the deeper into the Gold Fury pit while Warchi's backing. You know he had to go back to base. By the time the fight actually breaks out, Warchi's back and full HP and ready to brawl, and he puts out a lot of damage in that team fight. Julio did a great job zoning on the other side of the Sanctified Field, and this set build that Faeles has, I think just it kind of showed its weakness, where he has a good opportunity. Chekio no beads, no Sanctified Field, he's got the Aegis, but you just don't have enough burst damage, and no matter how much HP you have, when you are not ahead, when you are even, like you are in the jungle these days, then you just can't stand and fight for that long when you've got an AMC and an Olorun pounding on you.
You really need to combine maniaK and Faeles' damage. If that doesn't happen, you're going to be short. Now Simplicity has the upper hand of this team fight as they pick Warchi down. Dracomarino with a great save again. Support is always beautiful on these picks, man. I really do like watching Dracomarino.
Bad ultimate, though, from Genetics. I mean, you know Warchi doesn't have his beads at that point, so no use in using that Cataclysm on him. You have to use that on Draco to stop the Scarab's Blessing from coming through. It's a difficult play to execute in the middle of the team fight, but you have to be cognizant of CCing this Khepri. Otherwise, this big investment that you're putting in, I mean, Desert Fury, Colossal Fury, all the Fury on him.
There's the Fear No Evil in the Sanctified Field to follow up. Genetics grabbed and snagged. Warchi finds his 3rd kill of the game. WorstTurttle on the right side, shoving players off. You love to see it, man. Warchi on a tear here, off of the assist from the jungle. maniaKK on the backside, doesn't have ultimate, but will have it soon. WorstTurttle in trouble from Faeles, follows up, there's the kill. Follow up from Simplicity, gonna continue, Faeles on a thread. Julio takes that last one, it's gonna be a 1 for 2 so far. maniaKK zoning the rest of Caso away. That will be the end of the engagement.
Julio is just unkillable right now, man. I mean, well, I know that a lot of the meta right now is to set all of your supports in the mid lane. Do not give any farm to the mid laner, triple split it, whatever. But there has to be some balance. Even in the SPL level, you'll see supports roam around, not share red, not share a wave here and there. Try and get your mid laner to something. Because if you just resign yourself to taking every mid wave, this is the situation that happens. You get unkillable solo laners because your damage dealers in mid are completely irrelevant to them. I mean, DeathPanter may as well be minion number 7 in every wave to Julio at this point. He just cannot do enough damage to him in these team fights. Julio is able to 2v1 StreakUp and DeathPanter every single team fight, and it's making Faeles' job impossible.
Yep.
maniaKK is doing a great job because he's in the same position. I mean, Warchi can do some damage to him now that he has the Executioner, and AMC is just a better damage dealer than Anhur outright. But overall, maniaKK's played great, so was Julio. The Anhur pick is much worse when this far behind than the AMC.
maniaKK has been really, really fun. Genetics goes in, only Faeles is here. Chekio drops the Sanctified Field. That should be an all-out retreat. Ult for ult, so not so bad for Genetics. maniaKK has been the ultimate. You ever want an example of how you can peel without having any crowd control abilities? It's exactly what maniaKK's doing. Big Baby comes out, everybody's got to run.
That's a win, though, for Simplicity on that last engagement. I mean, Chekio used the Sanctified Field, long cooldown for him. He's got a little bit of CDR, but not much. Got the sprint out from Dracomarino. Looks like it actually clipped Warchi as well.
Ooh, WorstTurttle all the way in. Genetics grabbed. Warchi again. 4-0-2 for the mid lane Hunter. maniaKK now trying to zone like we were talking about, but Team Queso getting too aggressive. Julio and Faeles both trade one out. Now on the backside, Faeles will be punished. 5 kills without a death for AMC. The God of Bees looks pretty good right now. Team Queso, 4 players strong, have their pick of the litter. Mid, Primal, maybe even Fire. It's going to be mid. StreakUp's the target under the tower. Julio, Fairless, power cleave. See you later. Shoved to the locker. And Team Queso take tier 2.
Julio is just completely unkillable right now. I mean, he got through that whole fight. DeathPanter dies, and Julio was full HP. Hadn't taken a lick of damage. His play right now on this tier has been absolutely phenomenal. And this CC from Caso has been really strong as well. Simplicity just has been unable to really handle all the CC coming from Caso's end. Fear No Evil into an Abduct. Genetics just not able to contest with that. I think Genetics really needs a Spirit Robe to try and get himself some of that CCR, a big proc. We've seen a big downtrend in Spirit Robe recently, and I really do not understand why. That item is still completely absurd.
That's your like #1. You stand that item. You always have.
Broken. It's just broken. I mean, no other item gives you that level of tankiness as soon as you get CC'd. Hey Tom, what's the best thing in Smite?
Straight damage reduction?
It's CC. CC is the best thing in Smite. It's uncounterable at some degree. If you have enough CC, you can win any team fight. And really, Queso has a bunch, and the only way to stop it is to have either just constant CC immunity, unrealistic, or damage mitigation against CC. Spirit Robe, the only item that does it.
15%.
Buy the item. It's got a low internal cooldown. That thing should have a 60-second internal cooldown as far as I'm concerned. It's like 10. I don't get it. Why don't people buy it?
Is it really 10 seconds?
Yeah, it's really low.
Are you serious? That's insane. Spirit Robe would be nice. Well, certainly would be nice. Simplicity right now trailing by almost 10 grand. And Team Queso tripling the 3 kills that Simplicity have amassed. Honestly, Aggro, we both kind of agreed earlier on Simplicity is the better team, and obviously stats are still in here. But who's playing better Smite in this game number 1? Team Queso.
Yeah, no doubt about it. By the way, it's 15, so I was being a bit facetious.
That's
but
your point remains.
Yeah,
15 is absurd.
Queso's definitely played like the better team so far. I just think their composition has worked way better in the things that Finch was saying on the desk have really come to fruition, and that it's a lot of single target damage for Simplicity. Dracomarino just Scarab's blessing that one target, and Simplicity come up completely empty-handed.
Ooh, okay. That's a Geb shield, not fail speed. No, it was fail speeds.
Yep.
It was fail speeds. That's actually really big. Pyromancer goes to
Queso. They added the little icon on the base. Look on the minimap.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Thanks, Doug.
Not even a spectator-only thing as well. You can see that in your own games.
That's pretty exciting.
We love that.
I don't get many pyromancers in my games.
How do you mean?
I don't get them.
Do you try for them?
No, I just win the game. What can I say?
Wow, you're sick.
Yeah, dude. All I've played is Erlong and Ares jungle.
That's a good way to win games right now.
The other day I played Scotty jungle and Isis jungle. Still went 20-5.
Okay. We've been seeing Oloruns go with this Lotus Crown pickup. I just don't want to talk about your games anymore. Lotus Crown on Olorun, I think, is actually pretty smart. You already get protection if you hit your 3 on your allies, and then to get even more protection for you and your teammates in the middle of that team fight. It's also, you're not giving up all the power. 30 power is basically nothing, but at least it's not actually nothing.
Right.
And so you're able to still put out some degree of damage and get some physical protection. I think it's a better option right now for him than Dynasty Plate Helm. You're always getting your own heal, so you're always going to give yourself some degree of protection. I think it's actually a very intelligent sort of build.
I like it. I do think this is one of the situations where you're lucky enough to not have to think about it. You have all the people in the world. You've been very successful in just how team fights have gone. And Chekio straight up has had good positioning. Beautiful pillar from DeathPanter. The WorstTurttle starts to fight for the left-hand side. Chekio rolls it out. Genetics in trouble, and he won't roll it out as Warchi puts double digits up for Team Queso, and all 10 kills have had his stamp of approval. maniaKK in the ultimate will walk away, and Dracomarino gets cut off from the action thanks to another good pillar from DeathPanter. And what looked like a great start for Simplicity goes Team Queso's way. I think that's the 4th time I've said that sentence.
Man, it looked like a big overcommit from Queso. You're using Fear No Evil on a full health Geb, but it turns out Sanctified Field is really, really good.
Draco's in a bad spot. DeathPanter finds him again. Draco doesn't care. Turns around and puts damage. Chekio shows up, and now Mr. Panther has to go back to base.
Man, Chekio on this Olorun, we've really sung the praises of Julio and of Draco so far this game, but Chekio has been absolutely great. He's done actually a good amount of healing. Over 5K is more than I thought he would have done at this point. Really goes to show that Olorun healing is not to be trifled with. And just look at the player damage charts. He's top overall, even above maniaKK, who's been really doing quite a bit in this game. No kills to show for him, 0-0 and 7. That's 70% kill participation. That's a lot out of the long lane these days. To be fair, first one didn't come until 14 minutes. But he's played very well in this Olorun, has been staying safe. A lot of focus on the Warchi. Maybe it's time to switch it up and try and dive Chekio.
What's interesting is, or what's even more impressive about Chekio for me is not only is his positioning strong in a team fight, but when you say mage positioning, or hunter positioning, you still have a lot of room to move, right?
Yeah.
But Chekio always is in position to drop the perfect sanctified field, and that's the key. You don't really get to move that like you do other abilities. It fires kind of where you're at. You don't really have that much wiggle room. So for Chekio to be in position for the team fight ultimate, as well as find damage, as well as not get killed, I mean, that's not perfect positioning. It's been really cute.
Quick Gold Fury for Queso. They've got a big lead right here, but still seem a bit hesitant on committing to this Fire Giant. It's about to get harder. It's about to turn over to 30 minutes, and it's going to become an enhanced Fire Giant. I really think after they picked genetics, they could have done a little bit more to try and get that objective.
Are they being too safe? Are they giving Simplicity too much credence here?
Yeah, I think a little bit too much. I mean, you got Fear No Evil on cooldown, sure, and Sanctified Field. Those are two really big ultimates. But then the chase by the tier 2 to try and get kills at that point seems pretty unnecessary to me. Head towards Fire, get the objective. You're on a 5v4. WorstTurttle had a lot of CDR at the time. He had 30%. So Fear No Evil wasn't going to be that long until it was back up. Sanctified Field longer, sure, but overall, I think that they did miss a window to force a good Fire Giant fight. And take a page from the good teams in the SPL right now. Taking fights at Fire doesn't always mean that you're hell-bent on getting Fire.
Right.
It's that you're giving yourself an advantageous fight, and you're forcing Simplicity to take a bad one for themselves. As long as you're intelligent about tanking, you understand what the game plan is going into the engagement. Even if you lose the Fire Giant, you kill 3 members, one guy's got Fire, and you've got a 4-on-1 for 30 seconds. That's a huge win and lets you win the game off of that. You don't always need to be so worried about getting the objective itself. You're using it as bait to pull in Simplicity.
Queso and Simplicity have fought in about 5 different engagements, 4 to 5 different real big team fights. Simplicity is chased off of the Pyromancer. And almost all of them have resulted in Team Queso counter-attacking. And I think that might be why we see Queso a little hesitant here, because they're used to getting kind of engaged on and then they get the re-engage with some nice flanks. Here, starting the Fire Giant, they all have to kind of be in that one spot in order to lure Simplicity in. So their positioning might be a little bit messed up. Queso now finally starting to think about it. 1,500 or 15,000 gold in the lead is the Spanish team. Simplicity kept at bay for the moment. And again, just a bait, biding their time.
They're giving Simplicity a lot of respect here. I don't think you're not gaining anything by sitting here and twiddling your thumbs by Fire. You either need, you've got a 15,000 gold lead. Go push a tower. Go do the Fire Giant.
It's the last time it's going to matter, too. Most of the players on Queso have gotten rid of their boots. That's a lie, just a solo laner. But they will be able to soon. Either you're waiting for that, you're waiting for an Oni. What are you waiting for? The cows to come home?
Yeah, that sounds good. Hey, Draco's got Spirit Robe. That item's also good.
Fire Giant started. Simplicity half drawn in. Not taking the full bait just yet.
And why would they? I mean, Queso has shown a great reluctance to actually do the objective. If you're really this uncomfortable going for Fire, push right wave and get tier 2.
Okay.
I mean, you are doing nothing right now.
Pillar going to separate. WorstTurtle's in a bad spot. Ultimate comes out. StreakUp will get the rewind off. This could be bad for Queso. WorstTurtle has no ultimate. Sanctified Field cut in half. Now the rest of Simplicity answering back, but maniaKK surrounded. He'll look for an exit out the left-hand side. StreakUp and WorstTurtle up top, and it's DeathPanter and the jungler that are finding kills. Chekio's getting the kills. Bancroft is coming in handy. Nice heal up, but it's StreakUp that takes down Chekio, and that's the end of Team Queso. 3 players dead. Julio will blink away. Simplicity gonna push this side.
Man,
they're going to go for it.
That hurts, man. That hurts. Queso is in such a commanding position, and they find a decent engagement. WorstTurtle nearly insta-kills StreakUp through the Purification Beads off the Blink Fear No Evil. But all that happens is the Chekio doesn't find a flawless Sanctified Field that time. It's a good one. It cut the fight in half, but it wasn't absolutely perfect for what they needed, and instantly Queso lose the fight off of it. And it's because the gold lead became less and less relevant as they sat around.
When they walked over to the Fire Giant, it was a full 5 to 6 minutes ago. They had a full item over other players, and then Simplicity just sits there, farms, and kind of does this fake dance. DeathPanter might lose his life if Julio really goes all in. maniaKK's low. WorstTurtle can turn around and find him. There's maniaKK.
Oh, what's up, dude?
Super comes out. You can walk away, no problem.
Ultimate's up here for WorstTurtle, but if that monkey would have bounced, he would have maybe gone for it.
This is Fire Giant for Team Queso, they feel. Set is on the way. 2 carries will show up at 75%. The carry should melt it. Faeles, Kingslayer available, certainly has Penta on his mind. a single set will chase the players off.
They
I know
probably-
set's the man.
They don't have maniacs. TP cooldown probably. If it's a 2-on-5 at that point, it becomes pretty risky. WorstTurttle was down to half HP because Julio and WorstTurtle tried DPSing it a little bit too early.
Yeah.
I understand the hesitance there. I think that's far more understandable than their hesitance for the last 10 minutes before that.
100% agree. When Team Queso started this push, like I said, they had an item over other players. It is no longer a lead. Team Queso has sat on their hands and brought this game back to parity. Doug, if I may I see the graphs, please? You know, this is a fantastic story of Team Queso slowly bleeding out a team until the first team fight at 1740. That's where we got the first blood. And then they won a team fight farmed, a team fight farmed. You can see how Team Queso were repeatedly successful. And then one team fight they lose, but from this point on, this gold difference graph is just illustrative. It just shows how the fight is going because the gold is irrelevant. Simplicity waited enough. Team Queso allowed them to. We got a tie game.
Primal Fury is going to be a great get here for Simplicity. That makes this Fire Giant much, much easier to take. A big swing, you take less damage, you do more damage to that objective, so that's going to be really good for them. They've got Fire Minions. It's on the easiest lane to defend, but still, Fire Minions on the table. And gold not 100% irrelevant quite yet. I mean, DeathPanter is 2/3 of the way through his 6th item. Genetic still needs his 6th. Everywhere else, it's pretty much irrelevant. Yes, some members of Queso are getting their true 6 items with elixirs of speed. So it's not like Simplicity is completely there, but make no mistake, this is not a massive gold lead.
Yeah.
It is the equivalent of a mid-game 3K gold lead, basically.
Well said.
It's really not something that you should be too scared of.
Maniac here in zone position. And the Pyromancer will get taken. How long has it been since you've heard the phrase pwned?
I don't know.
Somebody in 100% like earnest yesterday, like on Twitter, said that I got pwned, like I got dunked on, and I couldn't take it seriously.
That's well, did you?
I kind of did get pwned, but like, see,
unlucky.
Hearing you like, so I was sitting there going, Maniac in zone position, and I really wanted to say
zoning and pwning.
Yeah.
You've been a big fan of the X and Y calls as of late.
Hey man, I grew up listening to Clyde Frazier.
Hey man, I'm not
Swishing and dishing.
I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying zoning and pwning sounds like one to add to the repertoire.
The Knicks superstar Carmelo Anthony slamming and panning across the team fight. Clyde Frazier was a gift to listen to as a kid growing up, man. His own style, his own flair. He used to show up in these zebra striped suits as well. Good stuff.
Man, a Knicks fan who had weird fashion and liked to yell and talk about stuff.
What are you talking about?
A man after your own heart. Sorry, I didn't mean to pwn you that hard.
Nope. Nope. A little bit of a tussle here, but I expect nothing of it. Simplicity now pulling a Queso and sitting on their hands. Simplicity, I think, kind of have the momentum despite the goal disparity. The Primal Fury in their favor.
Yeah, here, if I'm on Simplicity, here's my comms. Let's just wait because they'll pick a bad fight for us. I mean, that's just what happened in that last engagement. As long as you're wary of Genetics can't get put in combat, he can't get abducted to start the fight because that's how they lost the one by their own blue buff. That's the only way that they've lost these late game team fights. So as long as Genetics is very wary of that engagement of Dracomarino trying to find him with the abduct, then things should go pretty well for Simplicity. I've got no problem with their patience because they do need to finish DeathPanter 6th item, Genetic 6th item. All of those seem really good right now, so they can afford to wait. They've got no rush. Queso's the ones who, especially after you've had a big lead and you know you squandered it, you tend to get a little bit of a quick feet. You know, you're not thinking quite as clearly. You want to get things back in your favor. You tend to lose a little bit of that patience. Maybe they had too much patience, so maybe they could stand to lose a little bit of it. But I think the idea is sound.
I like Julio just like actually AFK.
I think he's just like eating right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my character here. I'm gonna go get some lunch. I'm watching Fire Giant.
They probably won't do it while I'm here.
Slow and calculated. You know, I really enjoyed the first team fight, though. The first team fight was very methodical, you know? There was it was a blink in from Geb, and then a counter initiation on WorstTurttle and Chekio ults, and then Dracomarino came through, peeled for his carry, and Queso won that team fight off of that. And that was how every team fight worked since then. Queso very clearly has a plan of action and wants to execute it. And that's why this fight up here last time around went awry, was because WorstTurttle could have forced something that I'm not sure the team was on the same page of, and Chekio kind of, you know, tosses out the field and tries to salvage it, recover. Simplicity just a little bit too far ahead there, and it all kind of slides downfield for Queso. Oh wait, what?
By the way, Genetics no Pride win. Very curious.
Oh yeah, that's a
buy it.
That is a straight up mistake, I'd say. I don't care if you overcap your CDR. Like
probably picked up Spirit Robe instead. I think the Oni is the item to lose.
Yeah.
In this build, Oni's very strong, but Pride win better.
Maybe even. I mean, I guess you can't say winged with Warchi around.
I think you can. I think.
Does Wingblade? I'm sorry.
He needs the extra movement speed because he doesn't have boots.
Yeah, there you go.
That's why he needs the extra blade.
Yeah. You also need the Pridwin though, so yeah, I'm with you. Get rid of the. That's going to be a Manta late game.
Yep.
Yeah, I say Oni. Because theoretically, less people are around you after you blink ult because they're dead, right? That's the plan.
Well, he was getting aggressed on that. He built that Oni's when he had been picked a couple times in a row. So he was looking to get as tanky as possible for as little gold.
Love this play here. You had said it, I think, 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
If you're too afraid to go for the Fire Giant, just group up and push right lane. Simplicity looking for it. Not going to find it, but will do a ton of damage. About 30% left to go there. 42 on the clock. Simplicity, 6 kills. 11 for the Spanish-speaking team Queso. The group up from Simplicity will open the door for Pyromancer. I never want to see teams overcommit to a Pyro engage. I think it's just not worth it. But WorstTurttle was flanking around. Kind of hope Simplicity would take more time there. maniaKK finds the flank as well. Takes more damage than he signed up for. Julio pushing Genetics away from the carry, taking damage. Nice thought process there. One more time. A reset.
That's Julio's blink, so not a great resource to expend. maniaKK uses the ultimate. Doesn't feel awesome, but I honestly think that's a less important cooldown at this point than Julio's blink. Well, maybe not, because Queso refuses to engage, so maybe it's not that big of a deal to lose that at this point. I mean, I don't know. I really feel like Queso has had good opportunities in this game. This is now... We've been here for 15 minutes at the very least.
This is huge.
Because there's been 3 different Furies that have spawned and have gone 2 different ways. This Oni Fury going down will put some pressure on this left-hand side. That's the one that really matters. WorstTurttle may want to go and clear that wave that's by tier 2, or Chekio, someone, to give that Oni wave a better opportunity to push to the tier 2.
Yep.
But if you're Simplicity, why care about your tier 2 on the left-hand side? It's irrelevant at this point. And you've got a wave pushed so far up that that Oni wave should lose enough steam to not take the Phoenix anyways, so the only one you're really worried about is mid, and you can easily pop over and clear that while still defending fire.
I'm with you. I think the push-up is very important. I'm actually very upset that Queso wasn't going to clear this left lane, because I think that's how they opened the door for Fire Giant. Honestly, I made the joke that Queso were going to just wait for an Oni Fury to start Fire Giant. But it looks like it was not a joke. They literally waited for it. maniaKK's here. You're going to go in the ultimate. WorstTurttle misses his opportunity up north, isolated by himself, all alone. You got another term for being away from your team? Because I want to use it. That was rough. You can't. Oof.
Now, does not work for him in that slot, and immediately Queso has to retreat. I mean, WorstTurttle didn't use a relic. He didn't blink in to find that objective, to find that fight starting off. I mean,
if anything, that's a silver lining.
Oh, wow.
Simplicity just backed up after picking WorstTurttle, and so Queso is going to start going for this. They know Faeles on the left-hand side, but immediately they try and take the fight.
Oh, I would have kept to the objective. Sanctified Field is available.
Yeah, but
It's scary, but I say go for it.
I don't know. I kind of agree with backing up. You try and sneak it as soon as they show up. You back it up. You're in a 5v4.
it's really a 4v4 because Faeles is on left.
That's the
You have
standard
relics.
call is to back off.
DeathPanter doesn't have beads, neither does StreakUp. Actually, I think you're right. The more I think about it, I think that is a fine fight for Queso. You've got a very limited time to get that fight going in your favor, but you know Faeles on left. It's a 4v4 and either carry has beads. That seems like an advantageous fight to me.
Yep. Everybody backed, except Julio.
Needs to be on his keyboard this time, though.
Yeah, he is. Here by himself, commanding that much presence. Again, 4-0-6.
Tom, they killed the assassin.
Aggro is rubbing his eyes right
They
now.
did nothing, man. They didn't do a thing.
I'm okay. Now, that fight, by the way, was a complete loss for Simplicity, because all that
Yes.
happened is they lost beads on two of their carries. That's the only thing that happened.
Fails. Running away from WorstTurtle. WorstTurtle sees the support and will walk away. I am being 100% serious when I say that Team Queso's plan for this Fire Giant engage was wait for an Oni Fury. I realistically think that was the game plan, and I'm not kidding. I think they went, cause that's why they hit the Gold Fury that early. They were like, all right, rush it down. And they see the green and they go, oh no. If they let somebody else get it, they go, oh no. We're gonna get that Oni Fury. Oni Fury opens up the door.
They might have to wait a little bit longer because it's going to be a Gold Fury next. There have been 5 Furies taken in this game. 4 by Team Queso.
That's what I'm saying.
Simplicity did get the Primal, which is important at this stage.
Oni or bust. That's where Queso's at. Because again, honestly, giving reason why they would do that, it is and for what it's worth, the only reason why waiting for Oni Fury to start the Fire Giant is a bad plan when you're at parity is because it takes 15 to 20 minutes. But at the end of the day, getting the Oni Fury to push up the waves, give your opponent something to do, that is the idea of the Oni Fury. Usually it's just your strategy when it's on the board, not let's kill a couple of Furies and hope it comes. So, maniaKK in some trouble as Chekio lands some good pot shots.
Got his ult. Okay. DeathPanter uses beads there because he got rooted, I think. This means WorstTurtle's got 2 targets to find with Blink, Fear No Evil. Let's get some action, baby.
DeathPanter does have ultimate, so they got to be careful.
Okay.
Sprint. Blink.
Yes.
There's a pull on genetics. The
Yes.
hits are good. Sanctified Field. He's knocked up forever.
Nice.
And Chekio takes down the support. Team Queso looking for Fire
Warchi,
Giant.
if he had pulled that Pyromancer, I would have lost my gourd, dude. I would have lost it. We gotta pick Fire Giant's dead, baby. Let's get towards the base.
Do it. Is it going to be killed? There it is. Fire Giant taken by Team Queso. 48 minutes in. And we're going to be looking for a push on the right side, Aggro.
And mid, WorstTurtle still here. Still has Blink, Fear No Evil. DeathPanter, no beads, no ultimate now. No Geb to shield him. This is where we play aggressive, fellas. We thought we were playing aggressive with a 15k lead. Took that one a little slow. Let's get this engage going.
Dracomarino going all the way in. I think you're going to get your wish here. maniaKK being chased. He won't fall down. No, all the way in. Swag flip is good. Gets the beads out of StreakUp. Right side burn is toasted. StreakUp's ultimate will be used in response to the Fear No Evil. Now Aegis, but surrounded and killed. Chekio gets that one. A baker's dozen for Queso.
Still genetics. Gonna be up in a minute now. Well, by a minute, I mean right away. StreakUp down for more than a literal minute. Can't get the left side Phoenix too quickly here if you're Queso, but wonder if you even need it. Can probably go right for Titan at this point.
Well, Julio's looking for his opportunity. Whether he blinks or jumps is up to the cooldowns. Blink is off. Jump isn't. There's a Sanctified Field. It's just going to be a power cleave and an all-out assault. Half HP on the Titan. Simplicity is fighting back. But that's going to be it. Game 1 for Queso in 49 minutes of play.
Man, I mean, all's well that ends well, I suppose, but that game took a little bit longer than it really needed to. Queso nearly ended up losing that game when they had an exorbitant lead because they were just too scared to actually pull the objective or make the right call and go push that tier 2 tower on the right-hand side. They need to work on their objective shot calling late game. Clearly, someone is not just putting their foot down and saying, hey, we've got a good engagement here. We can do this. We can do that. It's a lot of waiting around and just waiting for the perfect opportunity to come to you. Good teams like Simplicity don't give you the perfect opportunity. You have to make your own.
At the same time, you want to do what the winners do. So we'll be right back, but first, you got to wait.
INAP, powering the control room for the Smite Minor League.
Back to the Smite Minor League. My name is Fanta. We're happy to have you here with us as Queso just grabbed another win in that first set here, really the first win of the set. I'm joined here by Melissa Taco Posada to help me break everything down. We'll be getting to that here in just a moment. But Team Queso were able to earn this win in, 49 minutes? Took a minute for them to be able to finally get there and close that one out. I do want to remind you all, though, in your games at home, get into Smite. Make sure they are updated and your updates are installed, whatever you gotta do. Get in there and play Persephone, the new god. I know I want to play her because she gets to live after she dies. I'm gonna be dying a lot, so I'm gonna need those few seconds where I can still stay around inside those team fights. Now I can introduce Taco, who's right here next to me. Taco, you excited for Persephone at all?
I'm definitely excited. I mean, even judging by the looks of game number 1 here, Simplicity maybe could have used some Persephone on their team, but that's gonna be a little bit later on, I think, before we ever get a chance to see Persephone's debut in competitive play. But as for that game 1 breakdown, Finch, talk about a long one, but it really just felt like the calm before the storm because we saw such an extended period of time without any team fights.
Yeah, it was, 17 and a half minutes until our first blood in that game. I mean, it was a very passive game that was played. Even once the team fights did break open, it kind of felt like we would go back to that ceasefire and kind of bide our time. And Team Queso did seem a little bit, you heard Ryan talking about towards the end of the game, not comfortable making their calls on those FGs and forcing fights and getting Simplicity into bad situations.
They seem very hesitant to want to all-in commit against Simplicity, as if they were torn between trying to not lose the Fire Giant objective and trying to just control the actual map pressure that they had established after around that 20-minute mark, Finch. It really felt like both of these teams were just very content to farm it out best they could, especially when you factor in how late-game oriented Simplicity's draft was. It doesn't really come as too much of a surprise that Geb, Chronos, not exactly trying to fight early on.
No, that these gods would feel really good in the late game set as well, right, to be able to have some of that die potential. So I understand some of Queso's apprehension there in that game, but I mean, by the time that they got to the point where they were dancing around the Fire Giant, they were up, 10K plus gold at that point. You should feel pretty comfortable starting up some objectives. So we'll see if they clean some of that up here in game number 2. To be fair, we're handing on all this criticism. It is Simplicity who lost that game, right? So clearly they've got some stuff they need to work on too. Maybe not drafting so heavily geared towards that late game to give themselves a fighting chance in the early to mid.
Can agree with you on that one, Finch, and I would expect after that game 1 loss, Simplicity is going to come out hot here. Jean-Qui being stripped away first and foremost, no real surprises. Jean-Qui being such an interchangeable pick between Hunter, Solo, and the mid lane.
Oh yeah.
It's just too much dominance, I think, in all three of those roles as well, and a tanky boy as well, so you don't really want to have to deal with that.
That's right, hard to kill and does a lot of damage to you, so don't want to have to deal with him. The Geb being banned away by Simplicity this time, despite it being on their side of things, so looks like they're not planning on first picking it and worried that maybe Queso would snatch it up, so they banned that one away. Meanwhile, Queso banned away the Chernobog and the Merlin, though that does still leave a lot of strong picks out there, like the Muzen Cobb we saw picked up their last game, Olorun as well. There's a lot of stuff to ban and only 6 slots to do it.
I was looking more towards the direction of Jormungandr, but
Sure.
Team Queso not willing to take that chance. They're going to take away the Jorn one more time, so these bans all fairly the same. We see the Chernobog being taken out still from Queso, and I think it's clear focus, in a sense, towards DeathPanter in that mid lane. We saw him in the Anhur on game 1, so he definitely understands how to do hunters or mages in that position. But the Chronos first pick comes as no real surprise here. StreakUp definitely looked fantastic despite that game 1 loss. In the later aspects of match 1, it was definitely a little bit dangerous there for Queso.
Does mean, though, the Muzen Cobb can indeed go over to Queso, and Warchi piloted this one last game, so wouldn't be surprised if Warchi takes this one up again and try and get them some pressure. They'll get this Khepri to keep them alive as well. Dracomarino was doing a perfectly fine job on these Scarab's Blessings from what I saw in game number 1 as well, so no reason not to go back to these picks. So far, things looking fairly the same as we saw last time. It's just Simplicity won't have a Geb. Looks like this time they're going to have a Poseidon.
I want to see the Achilles.
Really?
I think that Maniac...
Into the Scarab's Blessing, you mean?
Into the Scarab's Blessing, yes. I think that Fatal Strike could be a good shutdown factor against this Khepri, but aggression's still on the minds of Simplicity, just not in the form that I was expecting. Osiris being locked in, but I still like this. Lord of the Afterlife going to bring in a lot of anti-heal, and the ability to take away Queso's sustain could possibly be a pretty big issue since they locked in that Guan Yu.
That's right. They picked the Osiris first, too, and then Team Queso picked the Guan Yu into it, so very interesting. I mean, clearly, this was Simplicity having some awareness that they were going to be leaning towards some sustain. This Osiris was banned away from them in game number 1, I believe, by Team Queso. So Queso also were aware this Osiris is something that Simplicity really does like to play. I imagine they'll be giving that over to Maniac, though I think we did see some Osiris jungle not too long ago.
We did see some Osiris jungle not too long ago, but I'm really hoping that it is not Osiris jungle here today for Faeles. I just don't really see a necessity here for that selection choice. But seeing the Guan with Queso's composition, I think that there is a lot of good shred burst possibility between the Muzen Cobb Stinger and that Tallow Assault. My main concern, again, just being that Lord of the Afterlife being such a good shutdown factor towards that sustain. And if Queso are trying to group around this Guan and rely on that team dependency for the healing, then Lord of the Afterlife is just going to have even more targets to take.
I'm surprised, too, because they have this Lord of the Afterlife, and it was clear they were going to sustain, that they were worried about this Hell coming out as well. On the side of Simplicity, they banned that one from Team Queso, even though they already have the Guan Yu. Perhaps thinking they would double down on the healing. And then they grabbed the Horus to give themselves a little bit of sustain of their own. But really what I like about this is that Horus is early pressure. He can definitely get this game started quickly for the Simplicity team, and then you have a Poseidon to follow up.
Mercury as well going to bring in a lot of that late game potential, and the hyper carries are necessary. Chronos, Mercury working hand in hand.
Yeah.
That's a ton of burst to try and live through, and that's not even factoring in the Kraken that Poseidon's going to be able to have. I love this introduction of a little bit more AoE focus here from Simplicity. It's a really strong game 1 switch up, and I just like the idea of genetics on a more aggressive support.
Right.
Geb, while he's definitely good at playing babysitter, he was just getting abused by Queso, and it was evident that they just wanted to keep that Geb from being a factor in a lot of those late game engagements.
I'm a bit surprised they picked the Guan Yu into the Poseidon as well. We already talked about how we don't like really Osiris, but I mean, the Poseidon here too. I mean, obviously the Whirlpool, he builds Divine Ruin quite well. I mean, I don't know. It feels a bit curious. Hopefully this Guan Yu, if you're a fan of Team Queso, is able to make it navigate his way through these treacherous waters, so to speak, here for Poseidon. But I don't know, man. I'm worried about that pick. And you add in the Olorun, another immobile mage you could potentially get punished here as well, Taco. But it sounds like we are just about ready to start moving here into the action. Simplicity versus Queso, game number 2. Tom can take it from here.
Ready to take a bite out of this one here. Team Queso versus Simplicity. Thanks as always, John and Taco. And guess who's back joining me?
Who is it? Is it Doug?
Well, yeah, but Doug's on the camera.
Yeah.
Guess who that voice is? Well, there's an image on the screen.
It's me. It's Aggro.
Oh, man, it's Aggro.
It's me.
Couldn't have guessed. What are you expecting out of this one? A fast-paced game?
Couldn't be much slower. So.
Well, let's assess the draft. Just looking at what we've got here, I think we'll see something a little bit more earlier from Simplicity in that they've got the Poseidon. That said, they had an Anhur. They weren't exactly earlier last time. So, honestly, looking at the draft from Queso, I expect very similar gameplay.
I mean, their draft is very similar. It's really just the set instead of the Hun Batz, so you're losing crowd control in that regard. You're also losing a bit of reliable crowd control by going Guan Yu instead of the tier for Julio, but you still have even more sustain now because you have the Olorun and the Guan Yu. Feels like it's time to start considering Olorun as an out-of-combat healer that you really have to be ready for, because those heals did end up being pretty impactful last game. I think that losing the Hun Batz is a big blow. So much of what Queso's drafted well in Game 1 was CCU constantly, and they just don't have that same potential here.
What I see is a different strategy. It's interesting because I think the timing is relatively the same, and that we'll get a later game composition that looks for engagements few and far between, mainly around Chekio's ultimate. But Julio and WorstTurttle are diving the back line no matter what. And WorstTurttle also starting out the cudgel. I'm with you. I want to see some more straight power, because I think the job of Julio and WorstTurttle is to dive the back line, kill somebody real quick, and then have a 5-on-4 to fight in the sanctified field with.
Oracles gets split, but fails on top of Warchi. Does not a whole lot of damage, just turns around and walks away. Yeah, I mean, I just think Simplicity's composition is much better this time around. They're still a little bit CC light when you don't consider Genetics Kit. With Genetics Kit, he's going to provide a lot of CC by himself. And it's, again, single target execute, stun this guy, whirlpool this guy, knock up this guy, that guy's dead. That's the way that this is gonna go. And again, I think this Khepri cleanse can throw a wrench in that style of composition, but it feels less single target than it was before. You have a true mage in the mid lane now alongside StreakUp. Sure. Faeles is able to split the team fights and get to targets that are far away from the Khepri a little bit better. You have good CC potential on demand in order to interrupt that Scarab's Blessing. Tidal Surge, Special Delivery, all of Genetics Kit, it all really does well against that.
maniaKK here on the Osiris, going to be walking in 2 versus 4 is probably a little ambitious here. Looking for the invade. It will wind up walking away, both teams. maniaKK, I think, is the only change I would make to the draft if I could. I would give him something with a little bit more crowd control. But maniaKK's style, kind of like talking about Julio on the tier last game, maniaKK's style is very much this walk at you, walk you down type guy. He's playing Vamana, he's playing Osiris, he's playing KK. He just wants to kind of push you out by literally pushing you out. And so maniaKK's looking to separate you from the team instead of outright stunning players. It's a different thought process. I would prefer to see some more CC, but I think the composition absolutely is, like you said, improved from game number 1. And probably much better equipped to fight here in game number 2.
Now, maniaKK's pick is not great against the Khepri. It doesn't do a good job of keeping him CC'd, but at the same time, you don't need hard CC to get on top of Olorun or AMC and chase them down. The soft slows that maniaKK has in the kit, the root from the ultimate, the delayed stun, all of those play very well up against AMC or Olorun. And so I don't mind this Osiris pick at all. I think that it can work as long as maniaKK's on the right targets. And maniaKK's going to be on the right targets. Yeah. He's been playing solo for his whole life, basically. So he'll be just fine. I've got no concerns about this Osiris pick. I think it works well.
Early game, still just as slow as last time. Team Queso had a lead last go around. This time, it's all Simplicity's kind of unspoken, nearly 1K lead. Again, off of the neutral camps, looking at just quickly experience. DeathPanter has gotten a couple more mid-harpies and other players, but that's about it. WorstTurttle, on the other hand, has found some juggle invades. So
I like DeathPanter going back to the Poseidon. This is a pick that he's played a bunch in his career, and frankly, he was irrelevant in Game 1 on the Anhur. Didn't really do a whole lot of anything. So getting him back on something he's very comfortable with, I think, is the right idea.
I like the idea of the Anhur because of the ultimate. Getting him out of jail of Fear No Evil and Sanctity was certainly a big deal. Not enough to win the game because while the defensive choices were there, the offensive not so much. Faeles successfully invades on the blue. Assist from Genetics and maniaKK. Genetics really important there. Zoning and knocking players up.
What else was he doing while he was zoning?
Stunning, slowing,
Anything else?
wing gusting,
What would you say like stunning someone and then knocking them up could qualify as?
crowd controlling.
What about opponent?
Whoa! That's a pretty elite term.
Thank you. I think it qualifies quite nicely in this situation. I do have to say, I like this strategy from Simplicity to get maniaK ahead, keep Julio down. Julio obviously wants blue as Guan Yu. He's a very mana-hungry character, but it's also just getting maniaK ahead and letting him get to work a little bit earlier against Warchi and Chekio. If you let Olorun get to level 20 in 6 items, it's going to be hard to dive him. Basically, no matter what character you are, he's still vulnerable, but might not be super easy. If you have a heavily fed Osiris, I don't know what he does to you in the mid-game, honestly.
That was another mid camp going to Simplicity. And they're again quietly really pushing this lead. 1,000 gold and then some, almost 1,500. Very similar to what Queso was able to do in the first game go around. No combat, but still finding the goals in the blue buff. Mid Harpies have been going to Simplicity as well, so we've seen a number of things kind of go in their direction. War Division coming out should protect the dual lane again for Simplicity. Team Queso doesn't really have anything, so if people were to jump on that left side, advantage would go to the Order team.
Bit of a difference this game for StreakUp. Last game he went for the Pythags piece right after the boots. That's pretty standard on Chronos these days. He figures if we're going to be here for 50 minutes, may as well get as tanky as possible. Get the Warlock staff.
I love it.
Faeles and WorstTurttle seems unwilling to fight on the left side anyways.
2-2. Julio now looking to strip for his jungler. maniaK trades out the ultimate to avoid the stun, and now the fight's going to come back. What? What did he try to crack it?
That was the fadeaway Kraken. He's going up in the Horus ultimate, and he gives him one for the road. You know.
Okay.
Listen, man, the helicopter was a little shaky as it was taking off.
Okay.
Yeah, that Kraken wasn't good.
That was a rough one, man. That was a rough one, man. I fully apologize to DeathPanter, but I just haven't seen one off that far in so long.
Tom is really trying his best out here, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say.
Thankfully for Simplicity, there wasn't really a team fight there. Team Queso was looking.
He got 20% CDR. He's conditioning Queso to not Aegis the next Kraken. That's just big plays. I don't know. I don't know.
Conditioning. That's a real thing. I know you're making fun of me.
I'm not making fun of you so much. You know.
Blackthorn here for the WorstTurttle. We'll see if it follows up with a Frostbound the way that Faeles did last go around. The tanky set didn't do it for me, particularly in the jungle, because, and I need to clarify that, because I actually think the best place to put set is solo while building tank. I love that approach to the game. Lean on the base numbers. It's a lot of fun. But the tank in the jungle requires high damage from your solo laner, and even then, you have to attack at the same time. That's what we saw the issue go wrong for Faeles, was Faeles and maniaK were actually high damage characters. Vamana is a high damage solo laner, but he wasn't given the chance to really do it because they were doing two different jobs, and although it's balanced on paper, it doesn't work out in practice. Julio gets his ult chased out. That was maniaK's goal from the get-go. And now in trouble with the ultimate down. Set has to shade over, but Mercury's already here. Tower dive is good. WorstTurttle better. First blood for Team Queso. 10 minutes. A whole 6.5, 7 minutes earlier than game number 1.
Yeah, Faeles, you can't double whiff in that spot.
Yeah.
Missing the ultimate, sure. Even if he lands that dash, he's dead, Tom. I mean, maybe he kills Julio before he falls, but I don't think so. Not enough damage in that build at that time. Now that he's got the stone cutting, maybe there's a possibility.
Genetics in trouble here. Dashes to DeathPanter. Another missed Kraken. At least that one was in the same area code. Team Queso walking away.
He hit Dracomarino on the center. It's just that Draco has 48 stacks of Gauntlet of Thebes. It is unkillable at this point. But he did get the beads out from Draco. Which
that's actually huge.
He picked up because of Genetics' chain CC possibility alongside the Mercury. Merc always thought of this late game hyper carry. I really think of it as a great early game CC chainer. Can really lock you down very, very well.
How long is that wrap up?
It's long. I mean, if you count the time from the ultimate, and then you 1-2 them, then hit them with the 3 right after the fact, it is a long time that you end up CC'd.
Yeah. Even the special delivery, it says 1 second, but that's the spin around time. You then toss the player, and you get at least another pop right in the liver, you know?
Yep.
Right side, blue buff invade again, coming out from Simplicity. Dracomarino the target. Julio's here and ready to fight if need be. WorstTurttle also has Kingslayer. Julio's ultimate chased out. Simplicity on the walkaway. And Team Queso successfully defend their blue buff. Mid-game Simplicity have had the game returned to the center. Team Queso still trailing by about 1,000, but what we saw last time was it slowly get out of hand. Simplicity was on the way to do that, but a very important play by Queso to kind of keep it in this 1,500 area region, which is totally fightable. And Chekio's going to go for it. StreakUp gets knocked up all the way. Here comes the reversal, but waiting in the wings is WorstTurttle. Chekio gets stunned and chased out, and here comes Faeles. Hits the ultimate, but there's WorstTurttle jumping to safety. Head on a swivel for the jungler on Team Queso. And a whole lot of nothing in the left side.
Really good bait, though, by Chekio. The idea is clearly there. You force rewind before WorstTurttle shows up. If there wasn't a big rotation coming in from Simplicity, WorstTurttle and Chekio certainly would have combined to bring StreakUp down. And you don't have a lot more opportunities. He's already at 52 stacks of Warlock staff. That's a lot of extra HP already.
Yep.
He'll finish Pythag soon. That's going to be even more HP. Might be a chin size game for Warchi at this rate, because we've seen a lot of HP coming out of StreakUp. Genetics again going for Gauntlet of Thebes, as every support should do every game. It's too good to not go right now. But I think the HP stack is something that is usually very good, and I think good here for Simplicity for sure.
Chekio has had really good Olorun stuff. Olorun's a strong character, and we've seen him picked by a number of pro leaguers, et cetera, et cetera. But the impact that we've seen Chekio play, both in team fights with respect to positioning and the 1v1 prowess, this guy clearly has a lot of hours in gym on the character. I mean, it's tough to say, but he's one of the best Oloruns I've seen as far as impact in the game.
For sure, no doubt about that. He has played exceptionally well on this character, but he's a little bit behind now because StreakUp's been able to get a lot of these neutral harpies and stack HP. Chekio still just going for that standard build that he went for last time, which is the Bancrofts and the rings, and it worked very well for him. There was no reason to doubt him, but he is a bit behind right now.
Warlock staff is, I always describe it as an item that you always want but can never get, because the only bad thing about it is stacking it. We'll return to that conversation in a moment. It's Gold Fury start and finish by Simplicity. Draco's alone here. The short side is making the rotation. Warchi chased under tower. Good job from maniaKK. Here comes Horus. Genetics is home. And the dash will be good. Simplicity full retreat. Team Queso watch. And the Gold Fury turns around. It's a big 3,000 gold lead for Simplicity.
That's how you play around the objective, with a slight lead right there, Tom. You got much better secure this time around for Simplicity, so it's not 1-to-1 with what happened last game, but just walk up and do it. You've got the trust in your teammates to CC properly and secure properly. DeathPanter's perfect on the secure, Faeles perfect on the zone, and Simplicity extend their lead and put themselves in a good spot to try and start grouping up as 5 and winning these team fights.
3K, 4K, that's exactly the difference. This is actually kind of, this is kind of ripped out from my coach textbook, man. What I love to see is teams kind of get a small lead thanks to some neutral camp observation in the early game, 500 to 1,000. Take that 1,000, 1,500 to a nice little Gold Fury push. Now you have 3,000 to 4,000 gold. Now you can start looking for these larger red buff invades that capitalize into a mid one tower push or something like that. This is textbook small lead to medium lead to large lead. It's up to Queso to kind of stop the train from running. How to do that, the best example is to go for the Primal Fury next time it comes up, defend one of the tier 1s if you get pushed there, because this is the early moments of the game where you actually can make these plays that in just 5 minutes will kind of be batty. So it's right now is where you have to act to keep Simplicity at bay.
You're pretty well positioned to do it. I mean, a lot of power spike items just finished for Queso, Hide of the Urchin for Julio, Frostbound Hammer for WorstTurttle. Warchi should be close to that Crusher. So you've got some options at this point. Could also be Brawler's Beatstick, I suppose, for Warchi. Either one seems okay, though. I don't know. I feel like Crusher is too good on AMC to pass up in the early game.
AMC, ubiquitous pick. He just does so many things so well. I've said before that he's not exactly always the highlight reel play. He'll get you bursted down. He'll hit you with a stinger, a swarm, and a basic to kind of kill you, and that'll be exciting. But in general, he's just pushing a lane. He's got a hive over a wall. If he does go brawlers, he can spread anti-heal exceptionally well by way of passive, honey, swarm. Everything he does kind of spreads to other players, so that looks nice. Really just kind of does it all at a 9. And it's real impressive.
Even after taking a big nerf in the mid-season update, it still wasn't enough to force him out of the meta, which is a little bit surprising to me. I don't know. I mean, those were pretty heavy-handed nerfs, I thought, to Bees in particular, but he still just does so much damage and on everything. Every ability feels like it's contributing so much to the kit. I mean, even Hive that doesn't actually add damage gives you so much attack speed, movement speed, and lets you get to fight so well that it's hard to contest against.
It really is, you know, and I think it's, you know, I as I said, kind of jack of all trades. He's not one-shotting players like we see the junglers that rise up and then get nerfed, or he doesn't feel completely like, what do I do against him, like when you get walked down by Erlang Shen. So I think it's that lack of, you know, doesn't feel as crazy. And then just to get jumped on, Kraken, I love that placement. That was, it hit a player, but that was a zoning Kraken. He just got lucky with a hit, but I loved it. Faeles, gonna keep going though, Ryan. Genetics here trying to box out Dracomarino. maniaKK on the right side showing up, but Draco completely surrounded. And Simplicity get their first kill on the board.
maniaKK should have Warchi dead here, and indeed he will with that Spirit Flail. That 3-man ultimate from Faeles. It's hard to lose a team fight when you hit an ultimate that big on Mercury.
Yeah, that was unexpected as well. Mercury really kind of came out of nowhere. And that is the lead for Simplicity. Tier 1 tower on the right side will add 500 gold. And now they find themselves 5,000 gold north of Team Queso.
Fury's up in 30 seconds, but that won't be enough time for Queso to rush it before Simplicity get back. This is a perfect time to get some kills for Simplicity. You force a couple relics to be used, Aegis and beads on both WorstTurttle and Warchi, beads on Dracomarino. So now you, and look at your carry's beads, pristine on your side of the map. So you really have a great opportunity now to get this Fury and make it that much easier for you to go and get Fire Giant as soon as you want.
So now that the mid game is afoot, this Primal Fury will spawn, and I'd like to see Simplicity make it despawn rather quickly. DeathPanter and Faeles are local. Genetics is here as well, but Team Queso willing to cause some problems. Dash and Whirlpool off the mark. Dracomarino able to meet his friends. There's a Kraken on top of Draco. Does half his damage, and honestly he suffers some after the fact, but the secondary fight could belong to Queso if they play it right. Sanctified Field already on cooldown, and Genetics rather low. Nobody dead just yet. Chekio will change that as Faeles gets the kill, and StreakUp lands on top of Julio, thanks to a little bit of help from Genetics. The backs for Team Queso will come in, and Simplicity will do what I asked for and despawn the Primal Fury. Another one, 7,000 gold for Simplicity, and they'll look for their next objective.
Should be this tier 1 on the left-hand side. You've got a Mercury and a level 20 Chronos, by the way. Have fun tanking that level 12 Khepri. It's impossible. You can't do it. You just don't have the protections or the HP or the items or anything. It's impossible to do. Simplicity, just take a fight. Like I said, they had relics. Queso didn't. Pretty simple. Really, DeathPanter's ultimate
was not very good in that spot. And there's no reason to waste it on a Khepri when you know that WorstTurttle and Warchi have no Aegis in that spot. You may as well use it in an instance where you know you're going to get a little bit more value. But I think that Simplicity end up winning that fight in spite of that more than because of it.
Exactly. They're just kind of trying to find the ways no matter what. That's what separates, the top teams from the rest. Finding every little window of opportunity, even if it's kind of closed. Pyro set to spawn here. Simplicity again waiting in the wings. Team Queso on the left side of the map, curiously enough.
Just need the farm, I think. I mean, they're really trying to get some items online to be able to consistently be able to fight against what Queso or against what Simplicity has been able to throw at them so far.
Simplicity is, I have to just keep throwing it, I think. Not the game. Throwing everything at Queso. This is an example of what Queso had last game but didn't do anything with. Now Simplicity, this is exactly what you've got to do. Just go to town, pop a frenzy, take Fire Giant, take the game. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to wait for the game to be handed to you. You've got to be the guy that goes ahead and grabs it.
Completely agree with you. I mean, that is where you use your lead and really just make Queso, even if Queso comes in that point, you've expended nothing on the Pyromancer, you're all full HP, you can get that fight going in your favor. It's a lot different than the situation of game one. It's much earlier in the game, there's a lot less damage on the map, it's not a one-to-one comparison by any means, but it doesn't mean that this isn't a great example of how to push a lead here by Simplicity.
Draco pops beads, get out of Genetics clutch, will make the Kraken whiff. A nice dodge by Draco, make no bones about it. Simplicity with the Fire Giant in hand, looking at the mid lane tier 2. No defense from Queso. This one will go down unceremoniously as well. Tier 1 easy, tier 2 easy. Phoenix not going to be free, but how easy it will be is up to Simplicity.
Still so much gold on the map, though, in the form of the tier 2s. May as well get these. You haven't gotten a chance to back and buy in quite some time. I've got no problem playing this a little bit slower. Get your tier 2s off the map. Now you back. This lets you head towards the left side, get that tier 2. By that time, Oni Fury will about to be up, so you can go for that if you want. Would take the majority of your Fire Giant if you go with that pathing, but still, you're far enough ahead that the next Fire Giant feels pretty guaranteed. You don't have to end with this one.
Yeah, slow and steady. Game number 1 was pretty slow and steady. I guess everybody watching the International, slow and steady is the way to play the game. Simplicity speeding this one a little bit, though, with that Fire Giant push at 23, or earlier, what was it, 20 or so. So a nice push there. Take the right side. Now ready to march up the left side. You see him clear the jungle. Very methodical, making sure that there's no farm that Queso can take advantage of if they decide to loop-de-loop, but also making sure that they're able to kind of grab as much gold as possible because it's still early. Their support is still level 16. Shoutouts to the enemy that's 13. But there's still a lot of Smite to be played if we need to, and Simplicity are just saying, we've got some work to do, so we'll do it while we have our fun. No towers left for Queso.
I like this call. Fury's not up for a minute. May as well put some pressure, poke the bear, so to speak, see if Queso's going to be home and ready to defend. You've still got Fire Giant for a minute 30. You can waste this next 50-second margin where Fury is down to mess around by these Phoenixes and see if Queso will give you an inch and let you break the base.
Mid lane is going to be the place. Simplicity ways to set their march. Genetics going to take a couple with him. Land on the right, Phoenix. Look at that play. Ha-ha! Frenzy is popped. Look at my left. I'll go to the right. And a nice deke by Genetics.
Yep, that's... What is Queso ever supposed to do to defend that? You can't see where the Horus is going when he's in the sky. You can't tell. It's literally a guessing game. You guess left or right, and if you guess too early, then they just go to the opposite Phoenix. It's like trying to defend penalty kicks, but worse. It's impossible.
That is pretty true. That is pretty true. Only one more time. This time to Simplicity. 15,000 gold in the lead at 25 minutes. The major difference here between Simplicity and Queso's game number 1. is that Simplicity are making the moves. You know, I keep bringing that up because I think that Team Queso are a great team. And really going back and watching the video, that'll be what's evident, is that these are the moves that Queso could have made in game number 1. Now, they still took the game, but the length of it might be impacting game number 2. There's a whole lot of questions there, you know? At the end of the day, being more efficient is probably better than not.
You think so?
You know, most of the time.
How could you say something so confidently and something so brave?
You know, you laugh, but corporate America is a much different world.
That's fair.
Budget cuts, etc. I remember working for a company. That was like, all right, we have this much money we have to have a party because we have to spend this money or they won't give it to us next year. And you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense.
Man, it's getting real on a Tuesday out here, huh? First Finch is open. Now this.
Hey, man.
I'm just trying to relax and watch some Smite, dude.
Well, here's a Pyromancer. Look at that. Look at that expenditure.
That's a good one.
Pridwin, again, kind of ignored by genetics.
Very surprised. It's real good.
It's real good.
It's real good.
It's real good.
Should probably have one.
You should probably have one.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yep.
Must not like
CDR.
it. He must not like it. It's the only. He must think that it's overrated. That it's not.
That's a genetics line.
It's not core. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Surprising. I'll have to ask him about it.
No Relic Dagger this game for him either.
I think Relic Dagger is a case-by-case basis. Frenzy Relic Dagger is really cute, but I think the Blink is, I don't know. Blink Horus is fantastic. Blink all of a sudden on you, but I think it's less. Blink Geb is necessary.
Sure.
And I think you can make plays by dashing in, right? Geb doesn't have that luxury. So I can see forgoing the Relic Dagger in lieu of a Kasari, specifically when you have StreakUp, Faeles, and maniaKK that are all going to make use of it. I think that's a good plan.
I like the Kasari. Don't get me wrong. It's a bit of a good problem to have where you feel like you just don't have enough item slots for all these items that would be good against the enemy team composition are good for you.
Yeah.
But Relic Dagger and Pride win. Probably second and third in most bot items for supports these days, only surpassed by Thieves.
Well, maniaKK going to surpass the front line of Team Queso, half HP on the objective, as StreakUp has been going to town. Now Genetics going to take the squad to the left side, the back side.
Couldn't make up his mind in time. He thought about diving, thought about not, and that's one of those things that it's hard to really defend against because he's sitting in that ultimate and channeling it, but the rest of the carries can still be hitting your Phoenix at the same time.
maniaKK going to defend on the right side. Frenzy is popped, and the Sanctified Field is larger. There on the backside comes Faeles, and down goes Dracomarino. Big shot from DeathPanter. Big crits, and WorstTurttle in trouble. DeathPanter gets the double kill on the midline. Poseidon, 2-0-2 for the traditional mage in its traditional position. Simplicity in 29 minutes will break the base and look for the Titan.
Looks pretty simple from here, doesn't it? Yeah, walk in, smack it a couple times with your level 20 Chronos that was under no pressure all game long. And there's a reason that a lot of teams ban that Chronos away from StreakUp.
Yeah.
Might be time.
Yeah, for real. StreakUp's interesting. StreakUp has been one of the newer faces in the scene.
Yep.
When you look at the minor league, it's feder with people like DeathPanter, who have been around for a long, long time. StreakUp rather new, but you actually recently got a chance to sit down with a lot of hunters. Check out the roll queue video where they go into it, and you ask them, hey, who's on your mind? And they're like, yo, StreakUp in that hunter position's kind of nasty.
He's really good, man. He's been really consistent for this team. He plays his own style. He plays it very well. You ban the Chronos, he's going to take Merlin over there. You ban the Merlin and the Chronos, you've lost because Simplicity has everything they want elsewhere in their draft. It's really hard to fight against.
Team Queso looked good in game number 1. Game number 2 just kind of a little bit left out to the cold.
Yeah, the composition didn't work as well. WorstTurttle didn't
really do anything
It
at
didn't
all that
accomplish it.
game. maniaKK was too big on that Osiris. Did you see those player damage numbers? He was at 19K. I don't think anyone else surpassed 10. And if they did, I don't think they got to 11. It was easy pickings that game for maniaKK.
Tied at 1 each. We're going to game 3, but first, a break.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Smite Minor League.
Just like that, it is all tied up here in the Smite Minor League. We're still in Europe, and we're still in our very first set of the day. There may not have been a ton of kills throughout these two games here so far, but there has been plenty of action, and so we're gearing up to go to that third game to find our winner. I'm joined here by Melissa Takapasada right here next to me, as this is it, man. I mean, Queso Simplicity, Queso's been undefeated so far in Phase 2, but now put to the test.
Can't say I'm surprised to see the patience between these two teams. It has felt very methodical for sure, watching these team fights begin to break out towards that mid-game portion. But I have to start to believe, Finch, with it essentially being a best of one on the line here now between these two teams, I would not be surprised to see Simplicity just look to try and run that Chronos back if Queso doesn't try to take it away.
Yeah, StreakUp had a great game. I was also impressed with the way the Genetics played, got some really good value out of this Horus time and time again, I thought, from the early game there too. And I know we've been kind of making a big deal about how there hasn't been a ton of kills in this game, but there's also been a lot of safety drafted. I mean, this Horus has been drafted, we've seen Khepris and Gabs throughout these games. It does make some sense that if people aren't willing to go all in, that these individual picks might not happen.
Merlin going to be taken away first, though, for Queso, and still just trying to prevent DeathPanter from getting one of his better choices, I believe. But the Jean-Qui, and I have to imagine this is probably going to be very similar to how games 1 and 2 have gone in terms of the first 3 band selection choices out of Simplicity. They don't really have a whole lot that they need to switch up either. As long as Queso is permitting Simplicity to get that Chronos, I have to believe that they're going to look to try and continue first picking it.
Yeah, I hope that Queso take that Chronos away. I also hope that they put some consideration into what is being picked by Simplicity, because last time we talked about the Guan Yu into Simplicity, and what do you know, it's maniaKK on the Osiris who gets ahead because of that matchup and because the Guan Yu struggles with Poseidon there as well. I mean, maybe making sure that they don't just stick to their game plan, they're mindful of what Simplicity's locking in as well.
Always important to try and make those adaptations, especially at competitive levels of play, and especially when dealing with teams that are at the caliber of Simplicity. You have to remember, this was an MSI representative team coming in as the top seeded, and they have looked on top for some time. But it's a first pick Geb here for Queso.
That ain't Chronos.
I'm not going to lie, Finch. I think that if first pick Geb is where you're at, you're better off just going for the second pick selection.
I agree. I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, where it seems like if you're not getting enough value out of that first pick, then I'm not sure why you're in that slot. Now, Team Queso entire draft is not here just yet. We'll see how it materializes around this Geb. But I mean, you're giving up Chronos AMC, and that is all kinds of pressure. That's all the carry potential you could possibly need that's now been drafted there for Simplicity.
2 carries that don't really have much of a weak point outside of Chronos maybe a little bit of a lower HP bar in that early game, but they're so flexible between that mid and ADC role that I would not be surprised to see StreakUp back again on the Chronos though. DeathPanter staying true to those hunters in the mid lane to try and have a little bit better play around those buff invades. We haven't really seen too much action in that early game, but I'm expecting Simplicity to maybe flip the script now that they've got that Muzen in mid.
Yes, I think we will see things a little bit differently from this squad as Guan Yu and Anhur comes in. So they've got the Geb shield, they've got all this sustain from the Guan Yu, some CC immunity in the kit. I mean, they certainly have some safety, but now they have Chronos and Muzen accelerated, no pun intended, by this Fafnir with the AoE coerce. I mean, it's starting to get scary thinking about the way they're going to burn through objectives and team fights.
This is so open-ended right now for Simplicity. Really, they could go just about anywhere with this current composition, and that's only 3 god choices. As
Thor wouldn't feel bad, by the way.
Thor would not feel bad in the slightest. Neither would Ratatosker. Faeles just has his pick of the litter right now, it seems, because the focus here from Queso has to be on these hyper carries. The Chronos, the Muzen, they cannot be permitted to just get all that free farm in the early game. Like we've been seeing these two teams kind of played a little bit slower, but the problem is, how do you really counteract that as Queso when you have a Geb on your side? And you would think, yeah, well, the Anhur and the Guan Yu, maybe they could introduce a little bit of early game pressure, but Anhur and Guan Yu, not exactly the selection choices that I want into Chronos, AMC, and Fafnir. Multiple ways to cancel out that Tallow Assault, which is arguably probably one of the better damaging factors that Queso had going for them.
Well, you know who else doesn't do too bad with attack speed, building things like Shogun's Kasari and having a good time? It's Bellona, as it turns out. She also does very well with all these same abilities. Now, she can dive the backline, okay, but maybe not quite as well as some of these other warriors, so maybe this Thoth does make some sense. Might not get too harassed back there. I do kind of like this pickup.
Whether you throw Thoth into the long lane in duo or throw him into mid lane, I don't see how he doesn't get pressured out by both Chronos or Muzen. This is going to be a very strugglesome match here for Queso in that early to mid game, and if they're able to make it out of there mostly intact, then I think that they've got some decent components to try and counteract Simplicity's burst damage and their shred in general against the objectives. Probably that final judgment could come in clutch though, just because it's true objective secure in comparison to Simplicity that's a little bit more reliant on just outright sieging.
I don't know, man. I kind of like it. I hope it is Thoth and Chronos in the long lane, because poke is really good into the rewind, obviously, because you can't heal it all back up at once. Every little bit of tick that you do makes the rewind that much worse if you're able to make it through that threshold. So I kind of like that lane matchup in particular, but overall, Simplicity have a very scary draft as they add a Fenrir into their composition. But this will be our decider match, Queso versus Simplicity, Game 3. I'm going to hand it off to Tom.
Thank you, John Finch. In the decider match, it will be Team Queso taking on top team Simplicity. We've seen Simplicity a number of times, both on land, online, and here they are trying to keep it going. Me and Ryan have been here for games 1 and 2, and we're still here for game number 3. And genetics on the Fafnir. I see this strategy more with Fafnir than other characters. Is there a reason why?
The wand does decent amount of damage, it slows, it stuns, it's just a good ability. I don't disagree with you that it's a bit weird because it's easy to be body blocked, but in that instance, Genetic's not able to find it. If you spend your time dancing around trying to body block the hammer, that's less time that you're actually being able to DPS, and you're just kind of messing with yourself a lot of the time. So I suppose that's why Genetics, once you hit level 2, you have a great ability to get out in comparison to a lot of other supports. And it's just, I don't know.
It's funny.
A lot of good supports play Fafnir. A lot of good supports like to mess with the jungler because it does this.
Warchi already gets his beads chased out. Early game Fenrir is big, but the impale shoves, fails away. Nice job.
Maybe it's better to try and let Faeles follow you, one more brutalize and then, or one more auto attack, and then try and impale him into the tower. But, you know, at that point, you're just trying to survive more than anything else.
Right now, maniaKK trying to deal with the 2v1 because his support is elsewhere. And he's going to figure out what's going on here as far as how he's supposed to go ahead and make things work out. Doing it fine as a Bellona, not really having an issue. Mid lane now has to deal with genetics, running around, doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
But this kind of deficit that WorstTurttle has found himself in because of genetics is well worth genetics' time. I mean, he's still only level 1, but we talk about it a bunch. You're trading your least important farm in the support for the enemy's most important farm.
Well, right now, the duo lane, or would have been duo lane, is not going to feature Warchi. He jumps away one more time. The early game Fenrir damage, kind of scary. But that duo lane is now Chekio on a Thoth. A much different approach from the Olorun that we saw earlier on. He's going to be able to find the long-range shots on the Thoth guy.
Thoth is one of those gods that we're seeing a resurgence of as of late, but still takes some time to get rolling, and is one of those gods that if you're not super comfortable on, you will not make a huge impact, as Simplicity managed to steal away the enemy's speed. WorstTurttle having to back at a weird time because of that sort of invade situation that Genetics put on him early, definitely coming into play.
Dracomarino on the Geb here, another different take from our second game. More familiar, I think, similar to the Khepri, but certainly a different flavor. Warchi on the Anhur is the one that I want to bring up as we make our way through the list. I like the Anhur, and I like the Anhur specifically in comparison, or excuse me, in tandem with the jungle Guan. I think that Guan and Anhur can really just blow a player up in the mid game, and that becomes really scary for Caso, or excuse me, for Simplicity, because Caso now have a spot where they want to make plays, and it's that mid game.
Yes, that is kind of where this composition can end up paying off, but also their late game for Queso is really phenomenal. So you have that ability to take it long if you want. You've got great front line between Tyr, Guan, and Geb, good long range damage from Chekio, and Warchi's there to do the towers for you. I mean, you've got potential, I think, for Queso in the late game. So Simplicity, they've got great mid game fight as well, but their late game isn't that horrible. It's not as good by any stretch, but if they can get Faeles off to a big lead, and DeathPanter, who's already off to a huge lead, 2 levels in this mid lane, you're in a good spot.
Faeles is going to look for the early game plays, something that Team Queso can't really contend with, and that'll put their mid game at least at a premium. And that's why I like to kind of swap around with the doggo for Simplicity, just because, I mean, base nonsense out of Brutalize and even Unchain, that jump is going to hurt, it's going to hurt, it's going to stun, it's going to do everything kind of in this phase where Queso can't really dance. They've gotten away from it. Good beads out of Warchi, nice jumps, nice disengages, impales, etc. It's still 0-0, but 1,000 gold in the lead is Simplicity simply because of the pressure that they've caused. You don't die, but you back, and I take your jungle.
No speed buff invade this time for them, but damage has already been done in that front. They're still in a good spot now. I would like to see Faeles actually pay some degree of attention to this long lane.
Ooh.
Because how does Thoth ever get away from you? Especially now that Evade and Punish Roots no longer stuns. That's a big deal and can end up being the difference between living through a Brutalize and dying through the Brutalize. Now, you're dying through that Brutalize.
maniaKs can get pushed under Julio's tower. Another great tier play. Love to see it. One thing that I do find a little bit worrisome about the selection for Simplicity is, well, the Fenrir. Everything nice I was saying about it in the early game, Fenrir kind of falls off is the wrong terminology as far as falling off is the wrong terminology as far as I'm concerned when it comes to how the player is going to be able to do the job. But here it's lacking the other tools. Basically, Fenrir I like to see in tandem with a big burst mage, like that Poseidon from last game. Because the damage he's going to do won't be as effective in the late game. But he still absolutely has the unchanged setup into the grab player. But where does he bring him? Sure, you can bring him to the Stinger, which is actually a really big deal. But I just like seeing it with the bigger, safer mages. So late game, the Fenrir won't be as effective.
No, but I mean, if you're holding a tank in your mouth and letting a late game Chronos come to you, then you're going to be just fine, I think.
Right side, there's the invade. Leo blinks and finds a Fearless as they try to protect blue buff. There's the pick. Faeles, delivers to DeathPanter. And Dracomarino goes down. First blood for Simplicity.
Beautiful patience there by Faeles. Knows the only way that engagement doesn't go perfectly is if he uses that bite on Ragnarok as Dracomarino goes CC immune from Cataclysm. Wait it out. No reason not to. You're plenty healthy. There's not a lot of damage on the board right now for Caso on this side of the map. No Warchi there, so you can afford to play it patiently, and that's exactly what he does, and it results in an easy first blood.
Nice play there. Shillelagh purchase. Where's he going with this?
Blackthorn again. It's on characters like Fenrir, sometimes like Set. They want to just get in there and get their hands dirty. Blackthorn is cheap power, cheap HP. It's effective power, CDR as well. You get MP5 when you get low on mana. It's just a really, really strong item across the board that lets you play more aggressively. Could go Blackthorn straight into Void Shield. I think that would be enough pen for you. You're gonna need pen against triple frontline. For Queso, you cannot afford to just go pure hybrid and expect to be able to deal enough damage to WorstTurttle or Julio.
Oracles delivered to Simplicity. Now with that first blood, it's a 2,000 gold lead. Very quickly, this one is slanted in the favor of the Chaos team. Game number 1 was almost an hour. Game number 2, Simplicity quickly found a lead, but not this early. This early is a little bit different. Simplicity are on pace for a, if things keep going in this favor, and Team Queso can obviously stop. But for most of it, game 1 and 2, either team in the lead was largely unfettered. If Simplicity stay on this course, it's a 20-minute game.
It's not looking good right now for Queso, and I don't think Draco is really itemized properly for this. It's been a lot of rotations around the map, a lot of fights by speed, by blue. Yeah. He sticks with what they were doing games 1 and 2, which is no boots early on. Genetics goes the exact opposite direction and ends up going for as much mobility as humanly possible early with the Travelers. I think it's very, very smart. Travelers, good on Fafnir, who can be a bit mana hungry at times on that character, so you want that extra MP5. You want the ability to move around quite a bit. I like this pickup.
One more time, the blue buff invade is attempted. This time, Julio able to grab and get out. WorstTurttle on the spin, and here comes Julio waiting for somebody to dive a little too deep. Left side is Warchi. Again, waiting for the setup. Setup never comes, and so Queso will walk away. Simplicity really walks away, and that be that. Julio wins the invade.
Feels a bit bad for Faeles because he runs out the entire duration of Ragnarok up in that ultimate, but I really don't think he misplayed at all in that instance. You're waiting for Draco to use the ultimate again, but that's how he blinks away, and then you're waiting for WorstTurttle to get off the horse, but by that time, he gets under tier 2, he's too far away. Yep. Does everything right, I think, in that instance. He got 2 ultimates for his ult, so it's still a win in his book, and just ends up not getting a kill for it. But you don't always need to get the kill in order for a fight to go in your favor.
That said, Queso protect the blue buff.
That's true. Queso finally got a blue for Julio.
So Simplicity don't get what they came for, but they win out as far as like the next team fight is concerned.
Just a matter of when that next team fight could occur. I mean,
right.
Getting Blink from Dracomarino normally a lot better if he didn't have that Relic Dagger first item. I said it wasn't the best pickup, but in this instance, it looked great. Now you're not as worried about losing that early on. Julio has made his blessing, so he's already got some CDR. He's not too worried about losing his ultimate. WorstTurttle, ultimate still down, but not for much longer. Looks like Queso ended up on top in that engagement after all, when it's all said and done.
Larger implications we'll have yet to see. But again, Simplicity just continue to push forward. Lead rather safe and sound. Both carries going into the Warlock staff this time around. Chekio a little bit more willing to go into it because he doesn't have to go the rings like he felt like he had to on the Olorun. That's certainly a nice option. As I said before, I kind of mentioned it and moved on. Julio misses the Fearless, and that should be an all-out disengage. Simplicity and these 3 micro lanes on the right side are all kind of pushing. And again, it's about a blue buff. And again, Julio's able to get it again off the dash from WorstTurtle. This time, Julio will again get out of there. Faeles giving Draco the chase, and Faeles again will wind up not finding a target for the ultimate. I saw that episode. I saw that one last time.
Yeah, that one not quite as successful, though this will result in a Pyromancer for Simplicity, utilizing the back end of Genetics' ultimate. I think Faeles should have canceled the Brutalize to pick up Julio while he was stunned by Genetics. You know he has ultimate, so that could have been a bit of a concern. But otherwise, I think that could have netted a kill for Simplicity if Faeles had pulled the trigger just a bit earlier on Ragnarok.
Maniac out here. Zone it and get a tower.
It doesn't seem to follow the same criteria as the rest of a lot of your catchphrases. It doesn't rhyme.
Stuff after the stuff doesn't really rhyme.
No,
Dubleun doesn't really rhyme.
Well, how is it supposed to rhyme if it's one word?
I mean, it could. You could rhyme a word with itself.
Go ahead.
Ground pound.
2 words.
No, hyphenated at best.
Nope, 2 words.
Snowblow.
2 words.
That's 1 word.
No, what's not?
When you go to the store to buy a...
Snowblower.
Yeah, there you go, snowblow. That works.
Snowblower does not rhyme with
Well,
itself.
you figure it out. Gold Fury pulled
Tom,
in
you know,
leash.
it's actually healthy to be able to admit when you're wrong.
Space Race is 2 words.
Yes.
No, I'm usually willing to admit that I'm wrong. More so than most if I am allowed to stand and pat myself on the back. But it's like the alien problem. The universe is so big, there's definitely aliens. There are so many words in the English lexicon that there has to be a word that rhymes with itself. Gold Fury is going down, Chekio's going to show up and push Simplicity off of it.
Level 11 here for WorstTurttle. Despite that early invade, he's actually pulled himself ahead.
Draco looks for an initiation and is stunned by genetics. Really smart play. Julio heals up. That's a good one. Maniac rooted, hit. Shoved back, half HP. WorstTurttle by himself. He'll walk away.
Yeah, not a bad fight for Simplicity to take. I like the idea to just try and sneak away that Gold Fury while the rest of Queso's a little bit distracted, but there's not enough damage quite yet in order to get that done. DeathPanter's only sitting on Mace 1. No Pythags piece yet for StreakUp. If that Pythags piece is done, that may have been a different story entirely.
One more time, Simplicity start looking at the objective. Draco knows about it. So does Julio. And so does WorstTurttle. Comes the all-in from WorstTurttle looking for Faeles now, changes his mind, and comes right back home.
Simplicity again, keep Queso on the hook with no ramifications. They lost nothing, and WorstTurttle had to use the ultimate. Has a little bit of CDR with the Blackthorn Hammer, but still not a whole lot. Now that StreakUp's gotten an opportunity to back, he picks up Pythag's piece. Wouldn't be surprised to see the exact same attempt happen very soon.
Well, now Genetics is behind enemy lines. He's pushed and pulled. He'll jump his way out. Hive taken down. AMC moves a tiny bit slower. But Simplicity will not get the Gold Fury, and it looks like they'll relinquish their entire attempt. Walking back into the jungle, taking care of their red buff, and then returning to the laning phase. 14.5 in here, folks. 1-0. Simplicity with a slight lead of 4,000 gold. Gold Fury would break this game open. Either Simplicity grabs it and finds himself vastly ahead and can do whatever they want pretty much, or Queso have it and they tie the game essentially and can do whatever they want essentially. So this is a very important Gold Fury for both teams, I think. Either way, it will have a giant impact on this contest.
And this is the right time to do it if you're Simplicity. DeathPanter is level 13, Warchi only level 11, so you've got an extra relic slot there. You've got a considerable difference in base damage as well.
Maniac in trouble, pinned against the wall. The overlap of CC is not a great look. Anybody call it doctor? Because Queso has all the DR in the world, and Simplicity gonna bite back. Not 1 but 2 for the B-Man. And Warchi in the middle beads his away the slow. Simplicity open the door and look towards the Gold Fury one more time.
Dumping everything onto the solo laner has worked very few times, if we're talking percentages, I think.
Yep.
In competitive Smite, trying to kill Bellona. I mean, you called it the overlap of CC, but even then, dude, Queso win the fight if Maniac dies in that spot? I don't think so.
If Maniac dies, I think it's an all-out disengage, and I actually think that had Team Queso use their abilities correctly, they do find a kill on a Maniac. That 100%. We had a fight earlier, I think it was game number 1, where I said I want to put that in a textbook as to how you want to counter engage. I want to put that in a textbook as to why you have to learn your DRs. Team Queso obviously know it. It was a heat of the moment thing. I'm not saying they don't know DR, but like that right there, you saw how quickly Dracomarino's Cataclysm stun was a quarter of a second.
DR is a big thing. That's why CC that doesn't DR is the best in the game.
Knock up, baby.
Knockup's the best.
Root, baby.
Root categorized differently, so those two end up working very, very well when overlapped with CC. That's why you want to end your CC chain with the knockup, and that's why Draco was trying to do that, but just expected to be able to get another quarter of a second out of Cataclysm in order to lock Maniac down. that bit of a gap meant that maniaKK had his ultimate ready to go.
Huge disparity of gold now, 17. And with just 3 kills, Simplicity find themselves 6,000 gold above Team Queso. Julio and maniaKK battling out of the right side. Queso getting aggressive here, and I like this call. They're looking for a mid lane Phoenix, or excuse me, tower. Faeles could mess this all up. Dracomarino here in trouble, but he's the tank. WorstTurttle goes to the back line looking for DeathPanter, but it's DeathPanter that turns it around, and Faeles gets the diving Guan Yu.
Level 12 on the Guan Yu, level 16, 17 on the carries. No surprise that went poorly.
Yeah, that was definitely a little bit rough. Simplicity to chase him up the lane and look for the enemy tier 2. Anhur unleashing. Not good enough.
Nice ult.
Chekio gets 1. Fenrir literally jumped over Chekio's ultimate, which was really cute. But ultimately, this one does go to Simplicity. Tier 2 falls.
Man, close, but no cigar there for Genetics to try and finish off Warchi. But I don't think he's going to lose a whole lot of sleep over it. Simplicity just got a tier 2 tower in mid, another 2 kills onto the side laners, and this one is looking rough for Queso.
Now listen, I said I loved the play by Queso to look for this tier 1 tower, and I loved it till Fenrir showed up. When you're down 5,000 or 6,000 gold, it's important that you remember that you are a valuable member of society and you can continue to make plays.
Know your self-worth.
You got to look in the mirror and say, and gosh darn it, people like me. That's what you've got to do. On a serious note, you do have to kind of grab the bull by the horns and look for these plays. But at the same time, you also have to be realistic and go, I'm 6,000 gold down. If the jungler shows up, everybody leave. The force fight of WorstTurttle diving the carry works if you're not 6,000 gold down. You got to understand what fights you can, the fights you can take might be similar, but the actions you can take in said fight and your ejection time is much different. Team Queso can look for that gold, that level 1 tower, and they should be, but they have to eject way earlier. Otherwise, they lose the fight, and they lose a tower, they lose a tier 2. That was really devastating for Queso.
Chekio followed by that brutalize. That's what we're talking about. How does he ever live against that Fenrir? StreakUp is the one who gets the kill credit, but it's really just easy pickings right now for Simplicity.
And Draco going to be on the run here. And Simplicity one more time. Kind of take control. 9,000 gold in the lead is Simplicity. Split push coming out from Anhur. So Warchi will get his team 1,500. But it's while the opposition is doing the Fire Giant.
Yo, WorstTurttle.
WorstTurtle.
Why we blinking in that way, homie? Right into where everyone is looking. You're trying to blink out. Could have done it a better way than that.
Fire Giant. Julio jumps in, looks for Genetics, and gets stunned on the fire ring. Warchi fighting Faeles, 2 levels his senior. Double digits go up for Simplicity. A slant slide here for Team Queso, starting game number 1 on the height of Mount Olympus, and then falling down, putting up a fight in game number 2, but not able to convert. And then game number 3, just being stepped over here. Simplicity really just saying, all right, we remember how we got our lead in the early part of the season. Let's just do it.
Sometimes that's what it takes. You know, you get the wake-up call game 1.
Yeah.
I do wonder if Queso doesn't let Simplicity gain a bit of momentum in that game 1 and almost come back. If they really just stomp them, maybe Simplicity isn't quite as friendly to one another in comms in between games 1 and 2.
Sure.
Maybe they don't figure out what you did in those team fights as well. Maybe it goes a little bit better for Queso. I do think that things like that affect the entire outcome of sets. The fact that that game took 50 minutes instead of 30 gives Simplicity a lot of time to go over picks and bans, to talk it out, to wake themselves up a little bit and be ready to play. So I do think those things all factor.
21 minutes in. Simplicity have 10 kills. Queso only 1. That was a kill from Chekio, finding a kind of shot-in-the-dark ultimate in a losing team fight. So not even a kill that Queso happily received. It was just sort of a thank you for coming kind of sample size. Left side Bird will be the group up from Simplicity. No Horus for genetics, so we won't see the magic trick like we saw last time. But trying to decide if it's going to be left or mid, still where the decision is for Simplicity. WorstTurttle pushing up in the mid lane, and Faeles is there by himself. StreakUp playing in the middle, and Genetics and maniaKK and DeathPanter leaning towards left. Slowly pushing. Nobody really jumping in just yet. WorstTurttle beads are down. Now all of a sudden mid lane is more impressive, but it's maniaKK that jumps on the left-hand side. Gonna start out two, Frenzy is popped. maniaKK's in trouble, knocked up is Julio doing a fantastic job of controlling this man, and Chekio takes the control and turns it into a kill. Left side Bird goes down, Simplicity get what they want, but they trade their solo.
maniaKK's down for 44, but he's got TP when it's time to go.
Look at WorstTurttle looking for the flank, but it's too late. Now all of a sudden it's not a flank, he's by himself. Simplicity don't jump, and that be that.
maniaKK just not quite tanky enough. I mean, the Soul Reaver pivot here from Chekio very early in the build to try and take down some of these tanks works out pretty well for him. Not a lot of HP, honestly, for maniaKK, so Soul Reaver not doing that much, I'd say, but just not quite enough protection. I like the Onis in this spot.
Yeah.
Where you're going to be diving consistently and you would need something that you can finish right away. Try and end the game sooner rather than later. Certainly have that option. Looks like Simplicity will probably have to wait another minute and 25 seconds until it's time for that Fire Giant to respawn, but as soon as it does, they now have a lot of pressure on this left-hand side to open the door for them on the right.
Mid or right, do you think is the more appropriate, or does it just not matter? Is it more about who's where when you're pushing?
I think it's more about who's where. I think that at this point, you basically just, you wait it out. You wait for Fire Giant to respawn, get yourself a Pyromancer, take some buffs if you can, and hope that someone from Caso makes a big mistake and face checks you with fire without knowing timer. I mean, that's basically what you're waiting for at this point. Genetics is going to have his relics up soon. maniaKK will have his thorns ready. You've got some items that you could try and back and sell. Genetics very close to finishing off Pride Win, which is weird, by the way, to pick it up on Fafnir instead of gods like Horus or Geb, where Fafnir doesn't get the shield until after it expires, I don't think. After your Draconic Corruption expires.
After Dragon's all over?
Yeah, so it seems not as good. Hey, remember when I said you hope that someone on Queso messes up?
There it is.
There it is.
Picking the mid lane, send Simplicity barreling down said lane. No towers to stop them at all.
What was Draco even doing there? I mean,
I don't know.
I am baffled at that one. I don't have an explanation for you.
Draco, you know, he's been playing fantastic all day. This Geb game has not been one that will wind up on his highlight reel. Julio getting jumped on by Faeles. Dash away is good. Up top, StreakUp already chased out. WorstTurttle does a good job up there. But now Simplicity on the chase. Warchi blown up. Big hits by StreakUp. Time Rift is devastating. And Genetics is going to get himself a kill. His second of the contest. Dracomarino says what's up. Two Phoenixes down. Simplicity will back to base. Maybe hit an Oni fire?
Fire first, I think. I mean, you may have to back, let your tanks heal up a little bit in the form of maniaKK in particular. Oni's up in 30, but no reason to let Warchi respawn for your Fire Giant attack. I think you want to take this 5v4, given the option.
Right now, we're going to have Julio pushing up the fire minions in the middle lanes. Something somebody's got to do, but it's going to be scary. This is where Draco died last time, and that opened up the world for a single Phoenix. So Simplicity are looking. Fire Giant will be here right now.
There's been a cute little ward that Queso's done a couple times. This ward in the corner of Fire Giant, right by where Genetics is standing. It's just outside of the range of the sentry that Simplicity has placed.
Yeah.
It's happened a little bit earlier, too. Sentry has to be a little bit further into the pit if you want to get that, but then might not cover one that's hugging that left side wall There's lots of little ward spots that you can learn from watching these high-level players to give yourself a little bit of an edge in even your games.
Yeah, a lot of times that ward in the middle, the sentry ward, is put there because the carries have a harder time hitting it or even seeing it from around the corner, right? You'll see the pulsing, obviously, but if you just look real quick, you won't see the ward. So that's why teams try to ward on that side. Like you said, you miss that pocket. So Queso kind of take advantage of it. Real smooth moves. And it's plays like that I think, and game number one and plays like that I think really paint Queso, I think, accurately. It's a very strong team that understands their gameplay and understands some of the finer points. But when it comes down to, what separates the absolute top from the rest, Queso are still trying to figure out how to close those games out. Queso are still trying to figure out when to get aggressive. Simplicity are a team that's figured that out. And they're going to make their play on the left-hand side.
Left side Phoenix already very weak. Final Judgment does nothing that time for Chekio. And Simplicity have already gotten the Phoenix down once more.
StreakUp takes down Julio. The rest of Team Queso on the run. Left bird down for the second time this game. Here comes the push. Genetics leading the charge, as he should. Stuns out Warchi, gets the beads and the cooldown on the Geb shield, and that's going to be the whole damn game. Queso falls down, and Simplicity grab the win.
Man, after game one, I think a lot of us had pretty high hopes for Queso being able to pull out an upset here. They've been on the rise a little bit here in Phase 2, but it just took too long.
Yeah.
All the wind came out of their sails. Simplicity's able to kind of revitalize themselves and win game 2 fairly easily, game 3 very easily.
Just a little bit more to learn for Team Queso. Simplicity, on the other hand, looking good here in this final game. Faeles 4-0-8, the devastation maker of that early game, and then StreakUp death point to everybody as the game came into those later phases for sure.
One of those games that StreakUp didn't need to do a whole lot that time around. He did a bunch in game 2. I felt like that game he was being hand-delivered tanks on a silver platter by Faeles. Faeles had a great game. Genetics played very, very well. DeathPanter did AMC stuff and got high damage numbers.
Fantastic game here. Simplicity take it. We've got 3 more matches to go. We'll be right back.